21st day, 11th month is the start of the week. Welcome to Monday on the AM show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I do, as always, sandwiched between a bevy of wonderful ladies. Bernice Abu-Baidoo lands on one end and Mapito Sibini on the other. Together, we serve you the finest of morning television. Now, coming up this morning, we'll be serving you the news shortly. But right after that is the news review, and we'll be joined by Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima. He is our guest. Beyond that, we'll quickly get into the big stories. We have a question for you. Have you ever wondered how the Ghana Statistical Service determines inflation per month, month on month? How do the inflationary figures affect your personal budget? Well, today, we break it all down for you with an analysis, and that will be delivered by John Foster Ajaho, Head Price Statistics Unit of the Ghana Statistical Service. He joins us for a conversation on those subjects. Well, also on the show this morning, we engaged the Ghana AIDS Commission. Why? They'll be telling us about their Red Ribbon Month, but the statistics are worrying. More than 24,000 people have tested positive for the virus this year alone. What's the commission doing about it? We'll be seeking answers on the show this morning. And please do remember the GAC is a sponsor of this year's Hits FM Schools Reunion, which comes off this Saturday. You want to rep your school in there. But now Ghana is experiencing a skills gap in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, popularly known as STEM. Joy Prime, in partnership with Dream Oval Foundation, ChallengeWorks, Foundervine, Mest Africa, and Dext Technology, has collaborated to bring you the all-new exciting Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize, that is the G-STEP, designed to promote STEM education in Ghana. We'll bring you more details on that later on the show. But as always, today being a Monday, we've got another package, another installment of Drive Safe with yours truly later on the show. But as always, we'd also love to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us. The show is all about you. The hashtag is AM Show. Let us know what you think about the show, about the guests we have, and about the thoughts we espouse. You can also call at the tail end when we activate the phone lines. On that note, Ghana 4, stay tuned. Let's serve you the news up next. Thank you for staying, and if you just joined us, good morning to you once more. Let's settle for the news now, and former President John Dramani Mahama says the current economic hardship in Ghana has taken a toll on offerings to God. According to him, followers of Christ are unable to give huge offerings in church because the economic hardship has affected the pockets of Ghanaians. He's been speaking at the 175th anniversary Thanksgiving services of the Evangelical Presbyterian Church in Ho.
We must always spread Christian love, especially in this time when money doesn't like noise. Especially in this time where we all agree that times are hard. This is the time we must show our Christian charity by loving our neighbors as ourselves. Whatever little you have to share, you should share with your neighbors. I mean, we could tell the hardship in the system from the appeal for funds. When it was 2000, Madam Chair Amedza and a few people came and donated. Then it came down to 1,000, then to 500, then to 100, 200 and 100. And then when we got to the silver collection, 1 CD, 2 CDs, the place was full. It shows that the pocket is not too good, you know. After we pray for Pakistan, moderator should also say a special prayer for me and for the NDC. So that in some years just coming, luck will smile on us, God will smile on us. And give us the power to come and rescue this country from the suffering we're going through.
Well, on the flip side, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia says government is aware of the current economic difficulties and uncertainties facing Ghanaians. Speaking at the 70th anniversary celebration of Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Church at Tema Community 1 on Sunday, Dr. Bawumia reiterated government's commitment to surmounting the challenges and turning the fortunes of the country around.
The teachings of the church provide hope in times of uncertainty and difficulties. In Psalm 9, verses 10, the psalmist said, and I quote, "And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you." Beloved, knowing God and trusting him cannot be separated. Our hope is secure in who God is. His goodness, his steadfast love, his justice, his compassion will guide us through this difficult period across the globe. Also in Isaiah 40:31, the word of God reminds us that, "But for those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on the wings of eagles. They will run and they will not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint." These two scriptures, people of God, recognize that as children of God, there will always be moments of hopelessness, despair, doubt, fear, and uncertainty. But our hope in God is always our source of strength and the motivation in these periods. As your government, we do recognize the difficulties and uncertainty we are experiencing in our country. But with renewed strength and hope in the word of the Lord, we are forever confident that we will ride this storm and turn things around to the glory of our Lord.
Now, National Security Minister Albert Kandapa says Ghana has not ruled out the security threat posed by the country's youth unemployment rate. It is estimated that more than 2 million youth are without jobs in the country. Mr. Kandapa says the unemployment rate is of much concern to government and urgent steps are being taken to address it.
I mean, clearly, the current economic crisis is not something that we are not taking into account. I don't know why you call it current, though, but we've always known that inability to raise the necessary resources can be a problem for us. And at all times, we try to make sure that we are accorded the necessary priority in the distribution of resources in the country. And I can also confirm that so far, we don't think we have been disappointed. We believe that the necessary priority has been given to our economic needs, the economic needs of the various security agencies, and we are confident that going forward, we will continue to have the support that we believe is necessary to keep all of us safe, to keep all of us secure. Youth unemployment is a huge problem, because you see, when you have a large number of people who are unemployed, the youth, the possibility of them getting radicalized is also there. Very much part of the solution must be our ability to handle youth unemployment in a better coordinated manner, so that youth unemployment per se does not continue to be a major problem. Youth unemployment, I can confirm, translates into a huge security challenge, and we are always worried about it. We do work closely with the other ministries to ensure that we can address this particular problem, which we know can be a major security concern.
Well, now 100 pupils from 9 different private and public primary schools in the Kumasi metropolis have received a boost in terms of confidence to pursue STEM careers at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research in Tropical Medicine, Day of Science. Now, the fair sought to expose the pupils in upper primary, that is classes 4 to 6, to the activities of the center and arouse their interest in science.
So we have to crush ourselves so that we can release our DNA. Okay, so we are going to crush our fruit and then we'll see how it works, alright? So let's all have fun.
The children had fun touring the various laboratories of the KCCR and partaking in live experiments. They were provided with branded t-shirts and bags donated by Sonses Bags.
I learned the types of mosquitoes, learned that we have the immune system that tries to protect our body from diseases.
The thing I enjoyed is like in one of them that they were telling a story about a queen that was the leader of the body, and the weird part is that the queen was in the brain.
I learned immune system, and we said that the immune system what fights germs in our body.
A teacher at Ija MA Primary, Gloria Abu-Baidoo, was grateful for the opportunity.
The government school, for instance, honestly, we don't have much materials and other things, like laboratories and other things. So if you expose the people to at least have an experience like this, it helps them to also learn more. On behalf of Ija government school, we are pleading with maybe the organizers to at least help us with material, science material, so that teaching and learning can be very effective.
Charity Wiafia Kente, a scientist at the KCCR, called for sponsorship to sustain the event.
It has been awesome. I'm tearing just after the teacher just finished talking. I think most of the schools are at disadvantage, and at the end of the day, from here, they've been able to see things that they wouldn't under normal circumstances will have opportunity to look at it in their schools. So I think we have actually have impact on these kids, and I'm really excited, and we hope that we'll be able to continue with sponsorship. We'll be able to continue and have these programs for students, more especially the government schools.
Reporter for JoyNews, Kwesi Deborah.
Some supporters of the opposition National Democratic Congress in the Savelugu constituency have disputed claims by Chief Executive of the State Transport Corporation, Nana Komia, that a rice factory under the One District, One Factory in the Savelugu municipality was providing jobs for the youth. They say the factory has been abandoned for months now. There's more in this report.
Addressing a press conference in Savelugu, the NDC Communication Officer Abbas Abdulrahman in Yaba said Nana Akumia peddled falsehood on November 4, 2022 on Metro TV's Good Morning Ghana that the Savelugu factory had employed over 100 youths of the area. Therefore, they need to make the record straight.
Nana Akumia sat on Metro TV when he was being asked to itemize by way of enumerating the number of 1D, 1F projects that have been duly executed by this super incompetent administration of MPP, led by Nana Akufo-Addo. Nana Akumia was not shameful. He cited constituencies with completed 1D, 1F projects to an extent that our dear constituency, Savelugu constituency, was not left out. That there is a successfully completed 1D, 1F project which has to do with rice processing project in Savelugu here. I stand here on behalf of the good people of Savelugu to respectfully remind and inform the Nana Akumia that we can only see an abandoned edifice, but we are unable to tell whether it is indeed a rice processing factory or not. That particular abandoned edifice, according to Nana Akumia, he claims that it has indeed employed 118 people I stand here to tell Nana Akumia that that particular statement is a clear statement of falsehood. By far, Nana Akumia of the MPP has lied.
The communications officer challenged the MPP and the CEO of the STC to make available any single name who has been employed in the area, adding that except they were ghost names receiving salaries not due them.
What we can only confirm and report, colleagues from the Inky fraternity, is an abandoned edifice without electrification. Visit there, you will not even see a sign of light at that particular edifice. That particular edifice is only being occupied by lizards and other reptiles. I challenge Nana Akumia and the entire MPP fraternity to make available one single soul, unless of course they are telling us that they have employed ghosts to an extent that those ghosts are even taking salary they are not even due for. On this note, a democratic nation like Ghana, we are simply inviting and involving the Bureau of National Investigations, now NIB, BNI formerly now NIB. We are also requesting for the involvement of national security and all other stakeholders to investigate this particular deadly allegation.
He called on Nana Akumia to retract his statement and apologize to the chiefs and people of Saviligu.
We are calling on the personality Nana Akumia of the MPP to, as a matter of urgency, Nana Akumia must from now, first of all, retract that particular deadly allegation. That lies, first of all, Nana Akumia must retract that statement on that same platform. We are also telling Nana Akumia, after he has done an absolute retraction of that statement, the next item in stock for him to do is to also sincerely and wholeheartedly apologize to the chiefs, opinion leaders, market men and women, and the entire Saviligu constituency.
Now, Head of Operations and Finance at Camfed, Fairuza Safian, has indicated that the organization will support 5 million girls from now to 2025. Ms. Safian says Camfed is partnering the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service to roll out mentoring and entrepreneurship policies as well.
Ms. Fairuza Safian disclosed their strategic plan at a media engagement to highlight what they are doing. She said Camfed aims at supporting women to be economically independent.
Camfed has developed a new strategic plan for the period 2020 to 2025. Our 2020 to 2025 strategic plan builds on our experience and momentum to set a game-changing ambition. Over the next 5 years, Camfed's goal is to support 5 million girls to attend and thrive in school by leveraging the multiplier effect. This is whereby young women who have been supported by Camfed through school provide social and economic support to the next generation of girls. To achieve this, Camfed will implement the three-pronged approach. 1, anchor the strategy in the multiplier effect. That is, we will build the pipeline of the girls who complete secondary school, join the Camfed Association, and together step forward as activists and leaders for girls' education. 2, scale the learner guide program, which we will go through. We will partner with the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service to roll out our flagship mentoring program, through which young women lead on providing social support to girls in schools. And last but not the least, invest in enterprise development.
The program's manager of Camfed Ghana, Christian Ziku Agbeko, cautioned applicants of their various support programs not to pay money to anybody to pick an application form or to receive any form of support from CAMFID. He said CAMFID has information some unscrupulous people are using the organization's name to extort money from people.
Also heard news around people, asking some applicants to pay monies to them to receive support. These are imposters, these are people who are masquerading as CAMFID staff or lying to people that they have connections or links with authorities in CAMFID. This is completely false, and like I mentioned earlier, we would not ask any of our clients or applicants or potential applicants to pay any money to receive support.
CAMFID Ghana is a non-governmental organization working in 12 regions of Ghana with a focus of supporting girls, women, and vulnerable boys develop themselves through skills training and education in order to break away from poverty cycles in their communities.
That's how we cap off the news on that supportive note. But up next, stay with us for the news review as we are joined by Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. That is up next. Do stay. Thank you for staying with us. Time now for us to serve you the news review, and we dig into the papers. We'll be joined shortly by Suleimana Brahima, Executive Director for the Media Foundation for West Africa. But before I say a good morning to him, good morning, Mapito.
Good morning, Ben. How are you? Everything
I'm okay. How was the weekend?
Weekend was good. It was chilled.
It was chilled.
Yeah.
I remember you said on Friday that you were going to chee with the big boys.
Oh,
Did that happen?
But I told you, I am the big boy, so...
Oh, right.
I'm chilling with my
How could I forget?
Yeah, I'm the big boy.
You are the big boy.
Yes, please. Yesterday, I went to KOD's event, Rhythms on the Runway.
Oh,
10th edition.
Yeah.
It was amazing as always. Every year, KOD always seems to just get bigger and better. So congratulations, a huge congratulations.
I don't know how I forgot that, because a friend wanted to take me, and I guess it all got...
So why didn't the friend remind you?
That's the whole point. I have to get back to this person and find out, because I had expressed interest in going.
Oh, really?
And this person had tickets.
I see.
So it completely skipped my mind. I'll have to find out now what happened.
Yeah.
But it was fun, right?
If you really wanted to go, you would have made a plan to
No,
go.
the thing is, Charlie, I plot these things on my agenda, but there are no reminders.
I mean, listen.
But it was fab.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing. Like it always is. It was the green edition. So sustainable fashion, green fashion.
Wow, that's interesting.
How do we,
especially as we're talking COP27 and climate change and everything.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
It was fantastic. Hopefully we get to see you on the runway one of these years.
Yeah, sure. I should, come to think of it, I should do some modeling stuff. What do you think? It wouldn't be bad, right? You don't think so?
No, I don't think so.
Why not?
I was just trying to hype you small where you take them. But
we didn't take a World Cup. We don't give any chance to any.
We beg you.
But it's good to see you. And
talking about the World Cup.
Oh, Charlie.
Yeah.
Qatar has become the first nation to host the World Cup and lose in the opening match.
Can you imagine?
And there's a whole lot surrounding that, because there was this allegation by somebody who, from what our sports team tells us, is a bit of a hater when it comes to Qatar, suggesting that there was a bribery incident and all of that. But if there were, it didn't show.
Yeah.
Because Valencia and team, they downed Qatar like nobody's business.
They did an amazing job. But they might have lost the game. But they won our hearts with that beautiful opening ceremony.
It was spectacular.
And Morgan Freeman always, man.
Morgan is Morgan.
Morgan is Morgan. Yeah,
I love that man to bits, especially when he played God in that movie. I've forgotten the title.
I was about to mention the God factor, but I was like, hey, people would say that vanity, I'm using the Lord's name in vain. So, yeah, Morgan Freeman, he's fantastic. He's fantastic, yeah.
Anyway, so let's get down to it. A whole lot to discuss. Mr. Brahima, Suleimana Brahima, is the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa. A very good morning to you, sir. All right, so we're trying to get Suleimana Brahima on board. In the interim, before Mapito starts with the papers she has. She'll be kickstarting it. I have the Daily Graphic, Daily Guide, Ghanaian Publisher, Republic Press. Those are the newspapers I have, all 4. And Mapito CBD will also be coming through with other papers that she has on board. Mapito?
Yeah, I have the Ghanaian Times, I have the Chronicle, and I also have, what do I have? The Finder, the Custodian, and the New Crusading Guide.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's start with you as
well.
well.
All right, so let's start with the Ghanaian Times. And disaster looms somewhere in your hometown, Benjamin, and you'd have to pronounce it.
Which one is that?
Somewhere close to
Angloga. Anyanui.
Anyanui.
Anyanui, I think. Angloga, Anyanui. No, just take what I pronounced. Even mine may be a little, but the Angloga, that one is. Anyanui or Anyanui. It depends on the context.
Yeah, so as Sandbar Blocks channel, communities' livelihoods in danger, town buried in sand, and another one disappears. We also have National Cathedral funds approved by Parliament. That's according to Mr. Ken Oforiato, who's the Finance Minister, and Professor Kwesi Watcher passes on at 78, page 10. Support the Finance Minister on budget statement, Dr. Sibe Yeboah. Let's go to page 18, where the National Cathedral funds have been approved by Parliament, according to the Finance Minister. Quickly, all right, National Cathedral funds approved by Parliament. Let's read through that story quickly. The Finance Minister, Ken Oforiato, says all the payments made for the National Cathedral were lawfully made. According to him, the payments were made from the contingency vote under the other government obligations vote and not from the contingency fund as alleged by the minority, responding to accusations that he breached the constitution in making payments to support the construction of the National Cathedral of Ghana. I have taken no money, and I quote, from the contingency fund to make payments for the National Cathedral. The Finance Minister explained that the contingency vote is a line under the other government obligation vote, which is approved by the Finance Committee and passed as part of the Annual Appropriation Acts passed by Parliament. The last one, according to him, in preparing the annual budget, the practice in that provision is made for expenditures that have not been fully costed at the time of the budget presentation. We know that on Friday he took his turn.
Right.
At that, what is it called?
The committee sitting for the motion of censure. I found it interesting, some of what he said on Friday, and a bit unsettling, you know, some of what came up. But I guess we'll have to take it as it is. When he talks about the contingency fund, though, there is the contingency vote, yes, and the contingency fund. He may be saying that he did not use the contingency fund, but there are limitations when it comes to even the contingency vote and how much can be disbursed from it. So that raises question in itself about the sums involved and whether they were legal, so to speak. I mean, there are so many issues. Of course, no one expected the Finance Minister to come and sit there and condemn himself. But
definitely.
When he talks about he feels it in his soul and everything, I can understand him. But I feel we're simply not moving as politicians with the tenor of the public, what they feel.
He feels it personally, professionally, and in his soul.
And the people feel you should go.
And the people feel you should go, but he won't go. On that note, good morning to Mr. Sulemana Brima, Executive Director of Media Foundation for West Africa. Mr. Brima, good morning.
Good morning, Maps, and good morning, Ben. It's great to reconnect as usual.
How was your weekend?
Well, quite well, and I had to be thoughtful, reflective, because the situation requires that one should constantly be reflecting and thinking about how to overcome the challenges.
How to overcome the challenges, yeah? And the challenges never seem to end.
Exactly. So actually, I believe that it is something that everyone with courage would say to themselves, that the situation is one that is being felt, you know, professionally, your soul and within your heart. I think that the situation is felt everywhere.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Brima.
That's quite a play on words.
Yeah.
In your soul and in your heart, just like the Finance Minister said. But maybe before you, I know you're getting into other matters. What do you think about what the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, says about the contingency fund and the contingency vote and disbursements from the contingency vote? We're talking the National Cathedral, among other things. What is your quick take on that?
Well, I think that the Finance Minister was basically being technical, but his explanation certainly doesn't take away the fact that the fund as was used towards the National Cathedral was not something that was approved. Indeed, even those of us who are non-finance people do know that as a nation, at the end of when the budget is approved, there certainly has to be a contingency vote, because things can happen on the spur of the moment, and it wouldn't be such that the Finance Minister has to go to Parliament to seek approval. For example, if there's a natural disaster, it is not something that is planned for, and it is not something that we pray for. And under circumstances like that, there must be money towards dealing with such incidents. And that is why the contingency vote is always approved. So it is not money that is approved for the Finance Minister to spend on things that we all know deserve some funding. Right from the beginning, we were told the cathedral is not going to be funded with public money or state money. People were going to make donations. Fundraising efforts were going to be intensified to raise money for it. So it is quite surprising that the Finance Minister will find it tenable that in the course of its construction, he dips his hand into public money, whether it's contingency vote or contingency fund, that doesn't matter. So it's for me an explanation that still doesn't wash. And like you said, certainly one wouldn't expect that he will come there and condemn himself as incompetent and somebody who has really run our economy into the ditch. So we look forward to what the recommendations of the committee will be and the ultimate debate in Parliament.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Brahma. Another interesting story on page 13, Sanitation, Justice Ministry's planned prosecution of sanitation offenders. Benjamin, Mr. Brahma. So the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is collaborating with the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General to set aside specific dates for the trial of sanitation cases, which include construction of toilets. We also collaborate with the local government to enforce the bylaws requiring every household to have a decent toilet facility. It has therefore urged all households in the country to have a decent toilet facility in their homes to avoid being dragged to the law courts. According to the ministry, about 18% of Ghanaians were still indulged in open defecation, and we really need to do something about this as a country, I quote. We'll pursue aggressively the One House, One Toilet initiative to ensure households get decent toilets in their homes, and will prosecute all offenders. And then we also have one person, very sad story there, one person confirmed in the fatal crash at So I'm not sure, those pictures or those images were extremely upsetting, but we know that one person was confirmed dead with 4 others injured in a fatal crash involving a truck and 5 other vehicles in the Prestea Honey Valley municipality of the Western region. The last story that I'll go to is Professor Kwesi Boakye passes on at 78. A former finance minister of finance, Professor Kwesi Boakye, has passed on at the age of 78. He reportedly died on Saturday at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital in Accra, where he was receiving treatment over a short illness. Now, some facts on Professor. He's the longest serving Minister of Finance in Ghana, having served as Secretary of Finance during the PNDC military government from 1982 to 1993. He was also appointed by the late Jerry John Rawlings to lead efforts in stabilizing the country's collapsed economy from 1982 to 1993. His leadership and commitment to the structural changes to our economy in the late 80s were critical, and the impact still with us today. That's a member of the ruling New Party, Gabby Asare-Ocher-Dako, who said that. So the Sanitation Ministry to prosecute some people who default to that law. They say that one household, one toilet. What are your thoughts on that? And I mean, you also saw that accident that happened at Bogoso. Do you have any thoughts? And the last story, Professor Kwesi Bocha, who passes on at 78, the longest serving finance minister. Mr. Brahma, any thoughts on the stories shared so far?
Well, let me start with the very sad developments. I read about the incident in Bogoso, and it's certainly a very, very sad development. Of course, an accident. We wish such things would not happen, but once they happen, what we have to do is to learn lessons from it and to see how we can avoid incidents like that in the future. And so our sincere condolences to the family of the bereaved, and we're hoping that proper investigations will be conducted so that if somebody was reckless, that then resulted in what had happened, such persons can be taken on. But apart from that, also learning whatever lessons that we can learn from that to prevent future occurrences. Of course, the passing of Professor Kwesi Bocha is another very, very sad development for our nation. Kwesi Bocha is an iconic figure. Growing up, and listening to him on GBC, read the budget statement annually, even though as a child, I can still remember, how people expect, is there going to be petrol increases? Is there going to be lorry fare increases? Is there going to be increases in salaries? Because those days, all those things were reflected in the budget. It's not like today where the situation is such that you wake up in the morning and GPRT says, they are increasing the lorry fares on Saturday or on Sunday, or the current situation where you are told, in the next pricing window, fuel prices are going to increase or decrease marginally. Yeah. And so he's played a very instrumental role in our national development. At one point, tried to lead the National Democratic Congress as a flag bearer. It didn't work, but nonetheless, within his party and at the national level, he's really played a very significant role. And I believe we would all pick some lessons and, be guided by some of the things that he did whilst he was alive, so that we also will be celebrated in our lives and even after our lives. So commiserations to his family. Sanitation, a big thing in our country. We've always been talking about it. The current government said Accra was going to be the cleanest city in Africa. We are nowhere close to that. Governments upon governments, efforts are made, but it appears we are where we are because government itself doesn't act properly, and citizens are also continuing their misconduct of polluting everywhere. I don't know, for example, why as a country we still indulge in this whole exercise of using polythenes for everything, from sachet water to black polythene bags to everything is about polythene. Kenya, Gambia, other countries have managed to ban the use of polythene just as a way of cleaning the environment. But in our country, the government would always want to pursue the cheapest way and pursue the most vulnerable to show that it is doing something, rather than the big policy initiatives that have to be undertaken to ensure that these menaces are dealt with. So without people being educated, people being motivated not to do some of the things they do, you can arrest everybody, prosecute everybody, but there will be little change.
There will be little change. The last one I want to touch on is the World Cup. Did you catch the opening ceremony, and how was it?
Unfortunately, I didn't. I just had a little bit of time watching the game itself. And certainly from the pictures, you could see this was such a beautiful facility, and it's quite enticing. I just wish our Black Stars all the best in this endeavor, and we hope that they do better than we've done in previous competitions.
Definitely.
Right, Suleimana, let's quickly get into the Daily Graphic newspaper. Quintessential statesman, politician, tributes pour in for Professor Kwesi Botche. There's already been talk about him and his sad demise in the Ghanaian Times newspaper. There's a picture of them that is trending. And when I say them, I'm referring to P.V. Obeng, who has met his maker, then former President Rawlings, who has also been called to eternity, and now Professor Kwesi Botche. And they fall in line from right to left, almost as though, like some have suggested on social media, that they knew the order in which they would go. But a sad situation, a big blow to our country. There's also, I've been honest in fiscal reporting, Ken Ofori-Atta defense stewardship. 2022 World Cup kicks off. Senegal play today. On the back page, there's a picture of Koulibaly. I'll get into some details of that. But some quick stories to take a look at. Use of Ghana card for voting. NIA EC system integration on course. That's according to head of the NIA, Professor Atefua. And he says that the two institutions have begun high-level discussions to create an integrated system for identifying registered voters and registering qualified individuals who turn 18 years ahead of the 2024 elections. The two are currently drafting a memorandum of understanding, among other initiatives, to guide the effective operationalization of their systems to interface for purposes of data validation and so on. The executive secretary of the NIA, Professor Atefua, confirmed this at a press conference, a press soiree in Accra last Friday. We also know that a deputy chairperson of the EC, I'm talking about Dr. Eric Bosman-Asare, at a multi-stakeholder forum organized by the National Peace Council in Accra last Tuesday, also spoke about the collaboration to ensure that no eligible voter was disenfranchised. That is the first story I'll take a look at. There's also a letter on page 10 of the paper, Ghana and Galamsey, the presidential powers. And it makes for interesting reading. It's on page 10 of the paper. You can check it out. But I'll just do some international stories and wrap with sports, and I'll bring you in Suleimana. Equatorial Guineans vote in national elections. We all know Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo has been in power for quite a long time. He arrived at a polling station in the capital, Malabo, yesterday to cast his vote. He's 80 years. He's been in power for 43 years. And it's only, certain that when he leaves, those around him, his children and others, will take over from there. Some have called this a very sad situation in Equatorial Guinea. And at 80, having ruled for 43 years, he wants another 7-year term. I was listening to the BBC this morning, and a reporter from Equatorial Guinea called all of this a big sham and a shame. That is one of the stories there. On the back page, when we talk about Senegal facing off with the Netherlands, the fact is Senegal and the Netherlands have never played together at the World Cup. This would be the first time. When Senegal qualified in 2002 and 2018, the Netherlands did not make it. But this time they're going to lock horns. And the other bit is that the Netherlands have the record. They've won 3, drawn 1, and lost none against African opposition. And when you look at the record of Senegal, they've won 3, drawn 3, and lost 2. All the wins against European opposition at the World Cup. Quick reactions, Suleimana?
Well, I can only wish Senegal the very best. They are the reigning African champions, and so we naturally should expect them to be one of our torchbearers among the teams that are participating from Africa. And of course, Senegal is also here in West Africa. It's a country that we cover. And I should say that my boss, the chairperson of the Media Foundation for West Africa, is a Senegalese based in Senegal. And so naturally, I feel some sort of allegiance and sentiments towards Senegal. And so I can only wish them well and pray that they are able to overcome the challenge this afternoon or this evening. Of course, the Netherlands has traditionally been a very strong team. And so one can only be very, very hopeful that they are able to get a good scoreline, if not a win, at least a draw.
There's also the bit about the NIA card, EC integration, and then Equatorial Guinea elections.
Well, Equatorial Guinea, we know the track record. The man has been in power perhaps since I was born and still being in power. Some of these things you ask yourself, what is the AU's position? You know, the African Union talking about is, you know, protocol on good governance, on elections and anti-corruption, all the other protocols that they have, and Agenda 2063, good governance, the empowerment of our people on the continent. What is the position of the AU? If somebody were to oust Theodore Obiang as being, you know, engaging in undemocratic conduct, would the AU then react with deployment of military force and the ban imposed on the country, or what? I'm not in any way then saying that these things should justify any military intervention, but I'm just saying that leadership on the continent must act in ways that really support the cause of the people and not the cause of individual leaders. On the NIA, let me say that I have found the conduct of the current leadership of the Electoral Commission very, very appalling. And I say so because over the period, they have patently failed in building national consensus on matters that are very, very crucial to the elections of this country and therefore the integrity of our democracy and the survival of our democracy. It happened in the last elections. A few months or so before elections, you know, changes were made in terms of how people can register, a new register, you know, the qualifications to be on the register in terms of what cards you must have and all of that, despite the challenges that people had at the time with, you know, acquiring the NIE cards. Now we are barely 2 years from the next elections, and I should say even 1.5, because the electoral processes and the campaigns and all of that gets so heated about 6 months into the elections. And you don't want to make any significant decisions 6 months into an election, as happened in the previous one. Now, this is such a major development. If the NIA cards are supposed to be used as the basis for elections, it requires a lot of national conversation. And if that is the decision that has been made, why are we not seeing a lot of national dialogues, you know, public engagement, stakeholder engagement, and getting stakeholder feedback? What should the EC be doing? How should it be doing? How do we build public confidence to ensure that, look, this government is the government in power. It is within this government that we have been successful with the implementation of the NIA processes. And therefore, the natural tendency for people to believe that, is the government having anything to hide? Do they want to use the NIA database to manipulate an election or something, you know, that could be suspicious? It is important that we engage to erase any sort of perceptions like that away from the people as a way of building confidence towards the election, ensuring electoral integrity, all of that. But we are seeing literally nothing of that. All we hear is that a press soiree is being organized, an announcement is made. A stakeholder engagement is being held by the National Peace Council, right, and then we are told what is going to happen. I don't think that that is how electoral processes should be managed, particularly in countries or in places like African countries where there's always agitation and contention on matters of elections. And that is why I say, look, the EC has certainly been very, very appalling. And I'm surprised also because of the leadership that we have at the EC.
Well, let's quickly get into other stories, Mapito.
All right, let's go to The Finder. It will be a tragedy not to use Ghana card to vote in 2024 from Professor Atufo. And we also have we have Black Stars player, technical team signed code of conduct to avoid Brazil debacle. But on page 2, the Asante is urging the judicial service and he's asking them to strengthen the use of technology in justice delivery. He said using modern technology at all levels would help to reduce cost, increase access to justice delivery, enhance transparency, and reinforce the trust of the public and the judicial system. Tutu the second said the COVID-19 pandemic and its accompanying social limitations had challenged society to find new ways such as technological advancements to address the myriad of challenges. So the ideals of transparency, accountability and trust were vital drivers of sustained progress and development of the judiciary and important constitutional institution to aid good governance, where technology was crucial. We also have a very interesting story here on page, okay, I can't find it now. Okay, yeah. So page 9, just the second one. Executive Secretary of the National Identification Authority, Professor Kenneth Sofo, says it will be a tragedy not to use Ghana card for election 2024. He's convinced that there's no reasonable basis for that not to happen. And he said the EC has submitted a constitutional instrument to Parliament seeking to use Ghana card to compile the new voters register. According to the electoral management body, the Ghana card is the most authentic means of identifying Ghanaians, and therefore the Commission's decision to use it in compiling a new database of voters for election 2024. Professor Atofua assured that the NIA is poised to clear all backlogs and register new people if the Ghana card will be used for the 2024 general election. And then we have the last story. 1.1 million Ghanaian males jobless in second quarter of 2022. Data released by the Ghana Statistical Services indicates that about 1.1 million males 15 years and older employed in the first quarter of the year were either unemployed or out of the labor force in the second quarter. So in percentage terms, the service said 9.4% of the employed males in the first quarter were employed or unemployed. Okay, so let me take that again. In percentage terms, the service said 9.4% of the employed males in the first quarter were unemployed in the second quarter, with an additional 15.7% outside of the labor force. The statistics were generated from the 2022 Annual Household Income and Expenditure Service. Now, in the Upper East region, 7 out of every 10, which is 69.0% males employed in the first quarter, were no longer employed in the second quarter. I think that is quite worrying, Benjamin, and that's like when you see like the rise in suicide, especially with males, is that some of these males have to provide for their families, and now they can't provide for their families because they are unemployed, and then the pressure just keeps on getting worse. And then you know the case of suicide, the rates, suicide rates start increasing, violence starts increasing. So I think this is something very worrying.
It is indeed worrying. And even before Suleimana comes in the Upper East region, right, 7 out of every 10 males were unemployed, who were employed in the first quarter, lost their work in the second quarter. And these are not things that you can take for granted. Over 1 million males, we're not even talking females, losing their work. It also talks about youth unemployment and all of that. I mean, when you look at the statistics from the Ghana Statistical Service, it's heartbreaking, really. And you also look at what some people in the second quarter were earning. Okay?
Yeah.
We know the minimum wage is 13.53. As of January next year, it will shoot up to 14.88, about a 10% increment.
Yeah.
But you're looking at people earning as low as 9 cedis, 90 pesos, less than 10 cedis. So it paints quite a gory picture about the economic downturn and where it has pushed some people.
Yeah.
You know, millions of people. And this also reflects other reports. I've forgotten whether it was the IMF or the World Bank that said that over 1 million Ghanaians had slipped into poverty, below the poverty line.
Yeah.
You know?
I saw that.
So all of this now starts making a lot of sense. But to you, Suleimana Ibrahima, how do you digest all of this?
Very, very depressing statistics, but it is something that we certainly are aware of, even without the statistics. And I believe that these are the indicators that should make the finance minister and the managers of our country be feeling depressed in their hearts and in their souls, and feel that professionally they've not done what it takes to really get this country going. If you have a situation where you have 7 out of 10 people who ought to be doing some jobs are unemployed, and in fact, those who had jobs in the first quarter losing those job opportunities in the second quarter, certainly that is very, very troubling, and that is certainly not an indicator of progress. It's actually an indicator of retrogression. Right. If you know, we have created the National Youth Employment Agency, but it is actually an agency to make people rich than to create jobs for people, as the name suggests. over the years, it's been an agency where deals are made, people loot from state resources rather than using it to create employment for our people. We know this government introduced this propaganda employment scheme called NAPCO, and within a matter of a year or two, it ceased to work, and quite clearly it was introduced for purposes of elections. So they are comfortable using the people and dumping them once they achieve their objectives. And that is why we as the people in this country must continue to demand that the governments that we elect do the right thing rather than continuing to loot from the state and resorting to technicalities to absolve themselves of incompetence and malpractices. It's a sad, what can we do?
Suleimana, we have just about 3 minutes. For me, I'll squeeze in 2 papers very quickly because the stories are tied. Ghana will rise again, Finance Minister, strengthen fight against terrorism, that is the National Security Minister, and the story there, Kwesi Boche dead, the Daily Guide. But there's also in the Ghanaian publisher, blanket-free SHS, unsustainable, Professor Ivan Adaimensa, former Vice-Chancellor of the University of Ghana, and NIA boss, wife sue ex-staff for defamation. The stories, though, that I want to link from the 2 papers. The Daily Guide says, let Oforiatta read budget. Esibe Yeboah, I believe the former head of the Finance Committee of Parliament, begs MPs. And tied to that, the Ghanaian publisher, Finance Minister confounds his critics. What do you think about the charge by Dr. Esibe Yeboah? Let Oforiatta read budget as he begs, and the Finance Minister confounds his critics, according to the Ghanaian publisher. Is that the picture you got from last Friday?
Absolutely not. I certainly saw more revelations about why we are where we are, rather than, something that reflects the competence of the Finance Minister. I said on Newsfile over the weekend that indeed I admire his calm demeanor and the way he presents things, but that is different from being convinced about his competence and the credibility of whatever he put out there. And that is why I am surprised that the respected former chair of the Finance Committee would at this stage be urging that we should let Oforiatta present the budget. Why? What is the problem? Is he the only person who can handle the finance ministry?
It's interesting because Dr. Esibe Yeboah's name has also popped up when it comes to who could be a finance minister moving into the future.
Well, he's somebody that a lot of people respect. If you talk to people in Parliament, he will tell you, look, we needed somebody like Esibe Yeboah to be the chair of the Finance Committee in Parliament and to carry all of us along. He's deep in terms of knowledge in the economy and economics and all of that. Unfortunately, the same government, it is actually this same leadership of President Akufo-Addo that actually orchestrated the exit of Esibe Yeboah. It is not a secret. Everyone knows that there was that orchestration to get him out and to have his replacement win the primaries to contest, because they felt, well, Esibe Yeboah was not playing ball. It is something that is not a secret. And so we hear the Finance Minister say Ghana will rise again. Certainly, we all believe and know that Ghana will rise again, but not with him at the helm of affairs. If with him at the helm of affairs, Ghana would certainly not be rising. But we believe that he would exit because he cannot continue to be there when almost the entire nation says, look, you must go even if you are our best player. We don't want you at this stage. And I'm confident that without him, Ghana will rise again.
Ghana will rise again. Mr. Brahma, it is always a pleasure having you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a fantastic, fantastic day.
Thank you so much, Maps. Thank you, Ben.
And maybe before you go, do you have any predictions for the Black Stars as they lock horns with Portugal? Any predictions?
Well, I can only say that I pray and hope that we win. To be honest with you, it is out of nationalistic spirit of patriotism, that I would believe that the Black Stars can defeat Portugal. But it is possible. I'm sure with the sheer determination and the exuberance of confidence that we witnessed, anything is possible. And I hope that we would overcome them.
Okie doke.
The Black Stars, eh?
The Black Stars could.
They disappoint.
They could surprise us all. But come to think of it, you know, they are signing some, like you said, so that we don't have a repeat of 2014 where they were asking for money and all of that, the entire hullabaloo and money being, you know, flown to them. But if you look at the $100,000 that each of the team, including the technical staff and others, are going to get, Charlie, that's like 1.5 million Ghana cedis. Because it's 15:1.
It's
hey, someday we'll get there. We go play football by thunder by fire.
Oh, sharp. But you dear, it's too late. Your age.
It's too late.
And now we go.
I'll use my football age.
You use your football age. Yeah,
I'm 22.
Yeah. Have to cut the beard and shave the beard and Charlie.
It will happen. Anyway, we're grateful, Suleimana, for joining the conversation. But up next, we have sports coming your way. And of course, the World Cup has kicked off. What can you expect moving forward? More on that in sports. Do stay.
Good morning. Let's do AM Sports here with me, Muftao Nabila Abda. The FIFA World Cup finally got underway. The opening ceremony was full of glees and glamour, but the European media, including the BBC, blacked out the opening ceremony and rather decided to televise the alleged human rights abuses in Qatar that has dominated the headlines despite Valencia's 2 goals to give Ecuador a win in the game against Qatar, where Qatar became the first host nation in the 92-year history of the FIFA World Cup to lose an opening game. Also, we'll talk about the Ghana Premier League, where Accra Hearts of Oak had to claw from behind to draw 2-2 against Dreams FC, whilst Kumasi Asante Kotoko also lost 2-1 to Real Tamale United. But we start with the Ghana Premier League stories, where Benjamin Yoke scored late as Accra House of Oak came from behind to draw 2-2 with Dreams FC. In Tamale, Kumasi Asante Kotoko opened the scoring courtesy of George Mfege, but it was their starman, David Abagna, who scored the winner as the Pride of the North came from behind to win 2-1 against the Porcupine Warriors.
Samuel Inkum. And you realize, Samuel Inkum fancied, he went on, and then that clearance.
Let's go to Qatar, where the opening ceremony of the FIFA World Cup took place before the first game of the competition between host Qatar and Ecuador. Morgan Freeman and Jen Cook, they start the glizzy ceremony that transpired, and it lasted about 28 minutes. We'll bring you some excerpts of what happened during the opening ceremony.
أهلا وسهلا بالعالم في دوحة الجميع. Welcome and good luck to all.
It was a conversation of whether Qatar will rise to the occasion in this tournament after spending nearly 300 billion to put together the FIFA World Cup. Well, the opening game against Ecuador gave glimpses of what the world can expect from this team. And Joy Prime's pundit for the FIFA World Cup, Christopher Nimley, believes the team will struggle in the competition.
One would have expected something better. And for me, I want to pity the coach, because you did. I did say earlier on before the game started that if you want to, if you've gone in for a typical Catalan, somebody who believes in possessive football and dominating the round object, you need to have quality players to enable you to do so. So I was wondering whether they've got the quality to play the Spanish way, and it is clear from what we've seen they come nowhere close to what a typical Spanish team will do, and that, in my view, will be their downfall, and they will struggle throughout the tournament. I think it will come down to the quality they don't have as compared to the other two teams, because look, a Senegalese team made up of the likes of Koulibaly, Sarr, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and those guys. They are playing for top teams in Europe. Okay, and if you go to the Dutch national team, there's Van Dijk. There's Van de Jong. Mention Memphis Depay. These are all world-class players, and they would have looked at this game today and clearly told themselves that, look, if this is the sort of opposition these guys are bringing, we need to quickly go in there and kill them quick. On the part of Qatar, one thing that if you're a coach you can build on is the fact that they'll be massively disappointed with what they've shown today. So in that next game, they want to come out and do better, and you can only hope that they will show a bit more desire, because look, in that first half they just couldn't control the adrenaline level within the system. At this level, the gland will produce the adrenaline. As the player, you need to calm your nerves down and get it evenly distributed throughout your body to enable you think well.
The opening game started on Sunday. The Black Stars will be in action later this week. Their game against Portugal is happening on Thursday, and former Ghana international Anthony Bafo has called on the Black Stars technical team not to leave anything to chance. According to him, our players would provide them some difficulties in camp, and the leadership must ensure that everyone is brought together and given the needed spirit to rise to the occasion.
First of all, when you go to a World Cup, and I had the pleasure in 2006 to be part of the delegation, and saw also what happened behind the scenes. So it is very, very important to be well prepared. Apart from technical and tactical skills, you need also managerial skills, because this is the first time Otto will be with a team for 3 to 4 weeks.
Yes.
So you will have different in camp. You see, every player has a different character. You have a captain with Dede and Thomas Partey, who are the leaders together with all those who have experience. Exactly, Jordan, Baba has been there for quite a while. And it's important to have a good atmosphere, a good ambience, a good team spirit that can take you places. Believe me, it's very important. The FA, they're already in Qatar. And this is very important. That we go, we're there ahead, they have been going 3, 4, 5 times. This is a World Cup. You can't leave anything to chance. Bonuses should be paid if they're owning the players. The environment within camp, you have to make sure that everything is tip-top. His technical team, the way they're working together, it's important that they're united, because it's not going to be easy in terms of media landscape. You know, Ghana is a football nation. So this is a different pressure which comes with it, which you have to live with it. So I always tell Otto, stay calm, stay serene, and continue to work out. He doesn't sleep a lot, you know, and he's someone who's always doing research. So personally, I wish him very, very well, and I believe he has got what it takes to make an impact.
There are many Ghanaians who feel that the 7 matches Otto has played so far hasn't been so convincing enough for them. And you know him, like you said, we need a certain atmosphere. He's someone who doesn't sleep because he's always doing research, because he wants to know. He wants to have an idea about what player A or B can do and what his opponents can do to him. If we head to the World Cup, where do you think Otto can take us to?
First of all, I think the 17th of November, it's a very important date. We are playing against Switzerland.
That friend match against Switzerland.
We need to get our lineup.
Happy belated birthday to Fozia Fuseni. May Allah fulfill your heart's desires. And this is coming from my colleague, Mubarak Haruna. We wrap up with some of the interesting moments that happened in the Black Stars camp, where former Hearts of Oak head coach Samuel Abu-Baidoo took to the dance floor and showed off his dancing skills. We appreciate your company with us.
Welcome back on the AM show. And just before I came on, I had to take a sip of water because guess what? Water is life. It regulates your body temperature. It keeps you alive and kicking. Well, Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And guess what? We have the perfect sizes for all occasions, 330 and 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We have also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now, all you need to do is stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake Water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. Now, you can buy 3 months or 12 months HD Plus subscription on your HD Plus decoder this football season and dial *844 *8# to enter the HD Orekodo Double promo. There are 1,700 rewards to be won, including trips for 3 couples to Dubai in December, a 65-inch TV or TVs, household appliances, and more. The promo is valid from now till the 5th of December 2022. Take advantage and make the most of it. On that note, let's settle for our conversation now as we talk our first big story. Have you ever wondered how the Ghana Statistical Service determines inflation per month? What is the permutation? How do the inflationary figures affect your personal budget? Well, today we bite into that with the head of Price Statistics Unit of the Ghana Statistical Service. I'm talking about Mr. John Foster Ajaho. He joins the conversation this morning. Mr. Ajaho, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, my brother. How are you doing?
Under the circumstances,
You're managing.
God is gracious.
That's good.
God is gracious. But, I mean, it's really good having you here. The other day, we had Professor Enim himself in the studio breaking down some of the bits for us. But let's start from the latest inflationary figures, even before we get into how you do the computation. What do they show? I hear 17 months back to back we've had inflation. What picture does that paint for our country?
Thank you, my brother. It doesn't paint a good picture. to have about 17 months continued rise in inflation,
that's almost a year and a half.
That's about a year and a half.
1 month shy of a year and a half.
Yes, and it's not good. Because it shows that you are invariably impoverishing your people. Because then their purchasing power is reducing day in, day out. And if they're not having a corresponding pay rise, then it means they can't survive. And that's not too good for the economy.
And speaking of which, that would also bring into play the question of the minimum wage. Because when inflation, there is inflation or prices shoot up, it means that the value of what you have, your purchasing power parity, diminishes. Your purchasing power diminishes.
Yes.
And in recent times, I was just looking again at work by the Ghana Statistical Service, where you talk about the fact that about 1.1 million males have now, gone unemployed from the first quarter to the second quarter of the year. I think it's, is it the Upper East or Upper West region that has about 7 out of 10 males, because it's 69%, so that's basically 7 out of 10. But what I found curious, when you look at that same research, it points to the fact that people are now earning, in some cases, as little as 9 cedis and 90 pesos, or 9 pesos, so to speak, which is even less than 10 cedis, which is even less than the current minimum wage that will be rolled over. What does that mean? How bad is that? What picture, again, does that paint?
It's even more bad if you consider the fact that those who are earning that 10 cedis, for example, let's just running up 10 cedis, and you have inflation of about 40.4, in essence, they are losing about 4 cedis out of that 10. So invariably, there's about 5 cedis to spend. That's how bad it looks. One, he's earning that low. 2, inflation is not too good for him. And so the real purchasing power of that money being given him is losing value about 4 cedis. So he only goes home with just about 5 cedis, 60 pesos to spend for the day. And you can imagine when you have prices of things skyrocketing, what that 5 cedis can do. And so when he's not able to feed well, he falls sick. And once the workforce is sick, the economy is sick. Production will be affected. So if you don't work on this early, it will have that spillover effect whereby we end up drifting towards, a shrinking economy. That's what we should fight against.
Is our economy shrinking as of now?
No. The good is that the last quarter release for the GDP gives some hope.
Right.
We're just cautioning that we should not wait for the workforce to get sick, to get, lose hope, and then begin to stay off work, and then we get to a shrinking economy.
Because the economy thrives on
the workforce,
a healthy workforce. So if there's no labor, there's no economy, basically. Let's get to the bit about how you go about your permutations in terms of the last time Professor Enim was here, I think he mentioned, is it 303?
307 items.
307 items that you have in your basket. Yes. How do you go about it in terms of determining that this is the inflationary figure for this month, that month? How do you do it?
So every month we go to the market across all the regions.
Okay.
We have some selected shops, let me call it that way, so everybody to understand. Shop, we call it outlets, that we visit. Okay. And for those shops, we have items that we collect prices on. So within the first week of every month, we go there. Those that are not pre-packaged, like rice and like bottled water, as you mentioned in your intro, we go with scales to weigh the corresponding value of that. So for example, if you take cassava, in the market, they sell it in heaps. So if you say it's 10 cedis, we measure how heavy that,
because and unfortunately in our system we don't have like the European or American system where it's kilograms or grams. Here it's
and then one thing the sellers do is that they can decide to maintain the price, the value price, but they'll be shrinking, they'll be reducing the weight.
Right.
So even
the Olunka, for example,
or even Paddy eats something like that. So we go to make sure we account for all those changes. And then when we get those prices, we come back to office, we do the calculations, we look at the change, and then we come up with inflation.
So tell me, you speak of selected shops, right? Are these shops that you go to all the time? Do you change the shops? Because maybe some shops would also give you slightly skewed figures, which may not be reflective of the generality, maybe looking at an average. How do you select these outlets?
Great. So we look at, in the selection, we look at representativeness. If the shop has the number of items that we are looking for, whether the people in the catchment area patronize it more, then we select it. But then changing, no, we don't change. We don't change because I always use this example. I happened to be around Medina some time ago looking for Tampico. There's a drink called Tampico.
Yes.
I went to the first shop, and then it was expired. So they dropped it.
Wow.
I moved to the next shop, the price was more than double. In the first shop, they were giving it to me at 5 cedis, and I know I usually buy it around 250 pesos. Okay. So when I moved about just less than a minute away, I got it at the normal price. So when we take you, we try to keep to you. Because if we change, as soon as we have changed, for the example I gave, we have recorded over 50% increase in inflation, which was not due to real increase in the price, but because we changed the seller. So we keep to the person. And you mentioned the point that the price may be skewed. The good news about the inflation we do is that we don't look at the value price. We look at the change.
Okay.
So you may be selling the same product, let's say for 10 cedis. He is selling for 5 cedis. By the end of the day, we are looking at how your 10 cedis has increased and how his has increased the change, not necessarily the real price.
And that brings me to an interesting point, because again, going back to, I get the statistic and how you're talking about the computation you do. Yesterday, I was sharing with you before we came on air that I usually purchase a certain type of blood tonic. I went to a place, and I think just about 2 weeks ago, I got it for 12 cedis and something, 12 cedis, 50 pesos or something like that. I go to a pharmacy yesterday, and it's 20 cedis. And I'm thinking, whoa. So I speak to the attendant and go like, but I got this for 12 cedis just, and it wasn't that same place though. Sure. It was a different place. So I felt, look, let me go to another place that I think, when I got there, it was 38 cedis. It was almost, what? So 38, it's even more than
50%.
Exactly.
Difference.
Almost twice the price.
Yes.
And I was stunned. So when you have such comparatives, how do you try to get out that element of distortion? How do you do it?
So the good news is that, as I said, so for example, as you say, you have this shop that you normally purchase from.
Yes.
And we prefer that we keep to that shop.
Right.
So he would have said, okay, the last time you bought was 12 cedis. Now it's, let's say, 26 cedis.
Right.
But remember, when you move to the other shop, he was sent more than what your normal shop.
Yeah.
So, you see,
so an 8 CD difference between where I bought it 2 weeks ago and now. And in the other case, it's about, what, 20-something CDs difference.
So if we were going to pick from the other one, who is sent at that high, we'd have kept to him. And yes, his price is high. But you see, the other thing I want to bring viewers' attention to is the fact that I think the president even mentioned that his speech, people don't understand. What he said, people are profiteering.
Right.
So you see, the same product, you got it 26 somewhere. Another person is selling it at 30-something.
Yeah.
Same product.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the same supplier who is giving to them.
Yeah.
Why would he sell it?
So someone may tell you it is the stock. Maybe this person bought it, it's been there for maybe a month, and this person just got stock, let's say, a few days ago, and the price changes have affected them.
Well, that could be true.
I remember I bought a certain drug for about 300 CDs just recently. And I felt, whoa. I went to another place, it was less than 200. Right. But within a short while, I went to that place where it was less than 200.
The price has changed.
And now they had got new stock, and I think there it was even 400 CDs. So you see, these are the things that unsettle people.
I agree, because I mean, if indeed you had an old stock and you haven't gone to the market to see what has changed, you still be selling at that low price.
Yeah.
Only when you go to the market that you realize things have gone up, you can increase. That I agree with you. But certainly we cannot agree with the fact that people are also playing around the situation we find ourselves in and are arbitrarily increasing prices. I mean, we have a lot of examples to share. And I think this is what we all have to, be patriotic and help all of us get out of the situation. Because if you think about the money, the profit we make, COVID time, this is started from the COVID time. When people started increasing prices.
Right.
Because we're in a difficult
even a common face mask.
Common face mask. It went up to 50 cedis. And that thing has stayed on up to 9. That's what we are fixing. People are still, they write out, the economy is hard, things are expensive. Let me be fast, let me make money before it normalizes. I mean, that cannot help all of us. We should all be patriotic enough, because are we going to be doing this for long if we all don't change our attitude?
Just how long do you suspect we could be in this? Because, I mean, look, I am reflecting the ordinary Ghanaian. We are all praying that we'll get out of this very quickly, because, look, it's not helping anybody. Even with fuel prices where they stand now, after diesel has gone, lowered by about 3 CDs, petrol by 2 CDs. Still, the last time I went to the pump, Charlie,
it's still high.
It's absurd.
For me, the hope, and I'm smiling because initially I was scared. I mean, I was not seeing any inside. But now that we are seeing relative stability at the exchange market, we are seeing some reduction from the commodity price. When I was listening to you this morning, I heard that crude prices at the world market had reduced a little.
Right.
And then we saw some marginal decrease in our pump prices. If these things work out well for us, then maybe before the year ends, we can begin to breathe some sign of relief.
Just to say briefly, I know I'm widening the scope of the conversation, but as you speak of the exchange rate, for example, what is the reality there? I conducted a cursory, survey over the weekend. I just ran some checks. Look, out there, people are... The Bank of Ghana rate is around 13 cedis, just around 13 cedis, 13.08, 13.10, 13.15. People are not, outside of the banks, and even the banks mostly will tell you that if you wanted foreign currency, you can't just, if you were traveling or something, that's when they would give you that.
Yeah.
And now also we know about the central bank, others clamping down on those who are importing certain goods that supposedly we should be producing here, which we are not yet producing en masse. But the exchange rate, is it realistic? Out there, just this weekend, I interacted with a number of people. The exchange rate is, you will not get anything less than 14.50. That is if you are selling, for example, the dollar. If you were buying it, it would be something else.
Yeah. For us, I think we are happy because we have a series of discussions with government, and some of the policies, that we proffered, we've seen it be implemented.
Like what? Like which ones?
Like the control in the dealing in dollar. And the bank has taken up seriously.
Okay.
Because that is bringing the instability at the exchange rate, the forex market. And once there's no stability, believe it or not, we have more than 50% of the items that we have in the basket to be imported.
Right.
So once the exchange rate is not stable and it keeps increasing, it affects the imported price.
Right.
And so
that's why imported inflation is so high.
It's always high.
Right.
So we really commend the central bank and government for the steps they're taking. We need to really sanitize our exchange rate market, because otherwise we keep on having problems with the inflation. You're right to say that you can't go somewhere it's 15, some even go beyond 15.
Beyond that, right. So, but how exactly do we do that? How do we sanitize it? I know that's not your, but what do we do realistically?
If you even go to some other African countries, you can't just walk to any place and say you're buying dollars.
True.
It's formula. You need to go with your passport, and it's regulated. And I think another thing, I was speaking to a friend, even as the bank is doing this at open market, is fine, we should also be able to put our hands on our commercial banks. Some of us get the sense that dollars are being moved out of Ghana to our neighboring countries. You go to some countries that surround us, it is difficult to get dollar, even from the formal markets. So the business people come down here through their commercial banks, and they carry the dollars away. And so when the demand exceeds supply, we are always having the challenge of the depreciation. So even as they're changing the Goro boys in Mokola, Tudu, and wherever, I think they should also put their eye on we should be able to monitor who is taking what and for what. Now they're saying that they're not giving dollar support to non-essential imports. So we should be able to measure that if you are giving over $1 million to a businessman from where, importing what. Once we're able to control the depreciation, trust me, we'll be jumping to hallelujah in the next few months.
I think apart from any fiscal issues that we could look at, and maybe, yes, we know that the responsibility lies with the Bank of Ghana and the Finance Ministry shared in terms of propping up our currency. Exactly. But when it comes to the black market, which also plays a crucial role, yes. They are everywhere.
Yeah.
I used to joke that now I don't think it's still there, but there's a popular police station in Accra, right in the central district,
I know that place,
where you would see them right next to a police station.
Holding it.
I always found that so curious, like hilarious, basically. They are right there in front of the police station. Yes. I don't know whether I don't think I've seen them.
I think now they're running away because the bank is chasing them.
Right. But can we do away with black marketeering, especially when the OMCs, for example, the oil marketing companies, we are not able to give them, we're just giving them a quarter or less of what they need in terms of foreign currency to bring in crude, processed and all of that. And then again, now that we are talking about those non-essential inputs and cutting off, dollars for these traders, isn't that just going to prop up the black market and just create a reverse of what we want to see?
For me, the good news I say in fighting the black market issues is that, you are right to say that we certainly cannot completely eradicate them. But when we minimize their activity, what they do is that they create artificial shortage.
Right.
When they get the dollars, they hoard it. So when the demand is high, the price goes up, then they come and sell. So when you're able to eliminate them, then you can have control over the rates. So, and that's why you all have to commend the bank of what they are doing. They should continue. Once we minimize their activity, we'll be able to have some stability at the first front.
Let's get back to the bit about inflation and how it's measured and all of that. So we've spoken about the 307 items in the basket. We've spoken about your outlets. What then happens month on month? So when do you conduct this? At the tail end of a month and at the start of the new month? How do you go about it?
At the beginning of the month. So the first week of the month, we deploy our plus collectors to the markets.
Okay.
They spend between 5 and 8 days collecting the prices. And then when they bring it, they do validation to make sure the prices they've taken are correct. Then it's transmitted to HQ, where we have to do the computation to make sure it follows our standards, and then we publish it in the second week of the month. So when we publish inflation for this month, it's the inflation for the previous month.
The previous month. When you look at the inflation so far this year, from January till now, let's forget about the 17-month cycle. Let's look at January to now, 11 months. What is the tail of the tape? What does it events? What does it show?
It shows that there is one shortage of, let me put it away, essential commodities, especially food items. And that's how you see the food inflation going so high. And I was shocked to be told that even goods, we import it from our neighboring countries.
Oh yeah, Burkina Faso, Mali, and the rest.
Imported from our neighboring countries. Onions. So we need to do something. We need to do, in fact, we use the word grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
Right.
Domestication. We have the farmland. So it's so that, I mean, we can't feed, and people cannot eat, you know, square meals as we call it, because food inflation is going up.
Right.
So we need to really avail our minds to this and make sure we produce enough, because it shows that there's shortages on the market. That's why the prices are going up. We don't have buffer stocks. But
that paints an interesting picture, because the Agric Ministry will tell us something different, that we in fact have a whole lot more, and recently you've seen them selling at the Agric Ministry. But it definitely shows, when Mr. President said in that address, that we need, you know, an import substitution strategy, that a lot of these, I hear there are some juicy types of tomatoes, for example, that we import from Burkina Faso. How come over these years and decades we've not been able to? So those raise a lot of questions. How come we bring in so many? Yes, there are entities here that produce toothpicks, but a lot of it is imported. From China and other places. Even the masks we use. So you ask yourself, initially when that drive started, when COVID and we are producing homegrown masks, what has happened to that enterprise? But so just a quick step back. When you speak about the store, the outlets that you go to, do you go to markets as well? Are these just, you know, supermarkets and all of that? What is the range? Do you target markets? Do you go to a Makola? Do you go to, how do you do it?
So we've done a study that shows us where majority of the people purchase their items. And that is the market that you're talking about, the Makola, the Atibubu, the Agogo market, the whole market. So majority of our outlets are in the open market. Then we have shops. We have the malls you mentioned, the supermarkets. So we have a cross-section of all these shops. The open, the shed, those who sell the open, who don't, not in any shop, not in any room, we go to them. Those who go have in the, like the schools we go, the filling station we go. So it's a cross-section of all the outlets that we buy things from, representative.
Okay, so it's wholly representative.
It's wholly representative.
Let's move on now to talk about how all of this, the inflationary figures, 40.4 as of October. How does that impact the ordinary Ghanaian? I mean, what is the meaning of that to the ordinary Ghanaian, looking at the average person and their earnings? What does it mean?
So what I basically say always in simple terms is that inflation is a thief, it's an armed robber. So you're assuming your salary is 1,000 cedis. If inflation is 40.4, what it basically means is that
you've lost
that thief is stealing
440 Ghana cedis.
Ghana cedis from you.
Wow.
So in essence, you are left with
560.
If you want to live what you were doing a year ago, that's what it means. You have just about 500 to go back to your a year ago life.
Ghana, that is an very apt analysis of the situation. So according to Mr. Ajaho, if you earn 1,000 cedis, and it makes a lot of sense, with inflation hovering around 40.4%, it basically means 440 cedis have been taken away from you by inflation. So when you hit the market, your 1,000 cedis is now actually worth about 560 Ghana cedis. That is startling.
Yeah, very startling. So if a year ago I was buying, the 1,000 could buy me my kenke, I'll be able to buy trotro and maybe take off my medication. Now, I can't, with this inflation and still the same amount of money, I can't go back to that life. I may not be able to take my medication. What happens? I'm going to die.
Wow.
I may not be able to pay my rent. I'll be evicted from my room, sleep outside. That's how serious it is. And that's how we are all trying to talk about this so we see how we can remedy the situation.
We also know that there is individual inflation because it depends on what you purchase.
Yes.
So if someone is purchasing, Kofi Brookman every day, it doesn't mean I love Kofi Brookman.
I love it too.
But if someone decides to feed on that for an entire month, that person's budget would be different from someone who wants to have lunch at X restaurant or Y place, So definitely paint a picture for us how in these times we can manage that. And we also know you have an app as the Ghana Statistical Service to measure inflation.
Yes.
Tell us a bit about that as well.
So you see, as you rightly said, inflation affects individuals differently. In fact, even the regions, it affects them differently. So depending on what you buy, if you decide to go for those Lazarus items, whose prices are changing rapidly over time, then you're in trouble. So you need to make some adjustments so that you know that, okay, if you want to buy 3-piece suits and now that's costing about 1,500, you can just look at it, no, maybe let me hold on a while.
Right.
Let me go with my traditional shirt.
Right.
For the next 2 months, who has lower inflation, and you'll be able to survive. And that's how we can develop the app. So people can relate. You do the permutations. No, maybe you have to stop taking taxis. Maybe reduce the taxi taking, but not to stop doing. And then maybe do more of walking and trotro. So I don't get heart hit. If I'm driving my 4x4 that consumes a lot of diesel or petrol, and now the pump price is up, I think I have to park it. So you can do, using the app, you can...
If I have a smaller car, let me use it.
Or even join the commercial vehicle, join the taxi, join the Uber, join the trotro.
Right.
Until we are out of the woods, and then you can go back to your Lazarus life. Like you said, if I eat fried rice a lot with chicken and French fries, why not me eat my coffee book, eat my konkonte, my banku and my fufu, which may probably not impact so much. It depends on we call something weight. How important that item is in your basket.
Right.
And then its effect on your inflation. So we really need to make adjustments here and there at this time.
Where it gets complicated is where, for example, people have to undergo chemotherapy or dialysis or get insulin shots. Those ones are out of your hands. I have, in one of our Living Standard series, my colleague, Mamiesi Thompson, spoke about how some people, I think there was this lady at the University of Ghana who was rationing her insulin shots. And that is dangerous. It's life-threatening. So when the issue of medicine comes in, that is where, can you say, oh, maybe today I'll not take the pills for my hypertension, but tomorrow I'll do this, when you know that it should be regular. So those are some of the complications for people. There's nothing you can do about that.
My brother, that's the sad aspect of the situation we find ourselves in. As rightly said, there are some, commodities or some needs of the individual that you cannot substitute. Like health care, chemotherapy. Substitute for what? And the most painful thing is that when the price is so high and the person cannot afford, he stays off it.
Yeah.
Eventually, we are saying the person should die. Yeah. And that's why we're always saying that, look, we need to find a way out of this in the shortest possible time. I mean, I first about the example you gave, the person needs to survive. He has no option. And yet the thing is being priced out of his control. We really need to do something.
Today, for example, we're talking about HIV/AIDS, which is spiraling a bit out of control and all of that. Imagine someone who has to get antiretrovirals. I know basically there are freebies in there, but they will need other things to ensure that they don't retrogress and the virus doesn't take over. If they don't have the means, it means we're basically telling them, Sebe, Kofioko.
Let me even bring your mind to something. I mean, some of the effects of this inflation we're talking about. I mean, people can disagree with me though, but you realize that there's a lot of people out there who catch this virus by virtue of poverty. So he needs to feed. I mean, like you were talking about somebody who needs to survive. And then he thinks that, especially for the female part, I'm sorry to use that example, the only way is probably to go to a man and then the man take advantage of her vulnerability And then in the end, they get infected with this. So that's why we need to grow an economy where, people can be comfortable.
Right.
Then some of these things, otherwise we can be doing well, doing the campaign, but fight against HIV. But you see, the cause, if it's not tackled, you still
positive factors. Right. That's a crucial point you make there. But that also reflects. Today I was reading Jeff Bezos, I think the second or third wealthiest man on the planet, founder of Amazon, was actually saying that, look, in the season in the United States and beyond, don't go buying the cars and the big screen TVs and all of that. Because we could be in for a recession. He's talking about the United States. But of course, what happens in the United States often has a trickle-down effect on the rest of the world, a spiral effect. And I found that interesting because his business thrives on packaging and selling these items. Yet he is saying, Charlie, we for slow down.
No, but there are honest people in the world. There are people that are realistic. And he's seeing what is happening to them. And you see, and that was the point I was making too. This is not the time to live Lazarus' life. This is a time for us to manage and make sure we just only depend on the essentials, survival of the fittest. So this is not the time to go and buy a 90-inch television and buy the 6-piece, the 3-piece suite and all that. You need to make adjustments because if, for example, like you said, we went into recession, you can't even watch that television. All that you may need at that time is water and food. So this is the time to make savings to prepare for the eventuality. That's what he was trying to advise us.
Let's look at another angle of this whole inflationary conversation. And after that, I'll bring it back home. In the United States, part of why we've seen all the inflation that we see across the world is that the dollar has been very strong.
Yeah.
Very strong. Yeah. Is it bullish as those on there? And we've also seen that, it's appreciated by about 15%. Recently, it lost about 4 percentage points. So we see a bit of decline in there, stability. Some economists predicted stagflation, stagnation and inflation in the US, and eventually a recession. But with what we are seeing now, with the dollar, the appreciation of other currencies, because now the Great British Pound has appreciated a bit, the euro is back to
stability.
Well, it's also appreciated by a bit, marginally.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? A weaker dollar. What does that mean? 1, for the Ghana cedi's stability. 2, for the cost of borrowing, especially for the business community. I'm not talking about Ghana. I'm talking about the business community. And 3, general inflation.
So if the dollar, somebody's problem becomes your happiness. If the dollar is weakening, it helps other currencies to gain strength. And that's why we are seeing some stability in our currency. So if you're able to do other things that will help our cedi appreciate, then it gives us that purchasing power, the strong power, to be able to control inflation.
Are we doing those things?
I think they're doing. Example is what I told you about the bank's effort to clean the forex market.
Right.
So when we do all those things, then our cedi will appreciate. Of course, then the prices will come down, inflation will lower. So yes, it's not good for America to suffer the depreciation, though, but I think it's good for us.
What we can't guarantee, though, because the Federal Reserve, is the one that hikes the rates and all of that, the cost of borrowing. They've not shown signs. In fact, it's been still hawkish when you listen to some of their representatives speak. Economists are hoping that they would, see this as a sort of peak and not hike rates further. Because if they do, the dollar will get stronger again. And currencies like ours will be the ones suffering. Because if you look at it globally, it is weaker economies like ours that bear the brunt of those effects.
That is why policymakers should not wait. Once we are seeing those signals, we take advantage. We also put our policy in place. You see, often than not, the weaker countries tend to wait and see what happens in America and the Western world before they act. I think we
are not proactive.
We should be proactive. We should be a step ahead too. So as you give the example, you ask yourself, okay, if the Fed begin to show up more to strengthen the dollar, what will be the effect on me? Okay, what will the plan B? So we should also be putting the permutation down and not just wait. It's okay, it's the dollar, it's a global dynamics, we have nothing to do. No. We've got to do something.
So in terms of these permutations we're looking at, what I started talking about, inflation 40.4%, and that picture you painted for us, if you're earning 1,000 cedis, with inflation at 40.4%, it means you are losing 440 cedis. You are left with 560 cedis to do the same thing that you were doing a year ago. And how is that possible? It means you must do some to stay, to just stay, not to go ahead though. You must run a lot just to stay where you
maintain your previous year life. So you're not even growing.
What then would you say ordinary Ghanaians should be looking at and doing beyond maybe cutting down spending? Because you will even be forced to cut down the spending because you don't have the funds anyway. What other alternatives are moving from central government and coming to the individual now? What do people do? What should people be doing?
So this is where we need to work more. That's what that means. I mean, we need to increase our productivity. And then so once you grow or you work more, you might earn more income to make room for the losses.
So extra jobs?
Extra jobs. And then those who do their individual work, hard work. People who do their own work, I mean farming. Somebody goes to farm 8 o'clock, by 9, 10, he's back. No, spend more time, increase the acreage. So the yield goes up and then you can get more money. You see, we need to make room for the loss, the one that has been stolen by inflation, and then we can move forward. So now at this time we need to avoid the profligate spending, cut unnecessary expenditure, but then increase productivity. And we'll be good to go.
Let me ask you this. So as we go to the IMF, for example, we all know 3 billion is what we are looking for. And some would say that we have no business being here because 3 billion is not a sum that we, as a country,
we cannot afford.
We cannot afford. But we know about the wastage. The wastage in terms of corruption alone is more than that sum of money. In terms of the Auditor General's reports and what they show is more than that money. But we've landed at the doorstep of the IMF. In terms of securing a deal, how crucial is the Ghana Statistical Service? Because you have all the data. How crucial is your role, and what role have you played in that so far? Have you played a role?
A lot. You know, like you rightly said, the fund depends on data to know where this country is and then the way forward.
Right.
They just left our office, I think about 2 weeks ago. I was with them, they were with me to look at my data, go through the processes and make sure it is correct. And so we give them the data, we give government the data, they fund the data to make sure they know what the situation, diagnose the condition well and profile the best solution. So you're very critical, very crucial in this discussion.
And so
they can't bypass us to do anything.
They can't bypass.
Government cannot bypass us because they need the data to inform the next step.
And so this data, what kinds of data are we looking at that you furnish, the IMF with?
Basically, from our side, they're looking at two key macroeconomic indicators: the inflation and the GDP. Right. How the economy is growing. So these are the two that they use to do their projections. And that's why they come out to say maybe our debt level is not sustainable, it's sustainable, and we can get out of the root problem in the next month or so. These are the two data that they use in arriving at those decisions.
Before we wrap the conversation, before we do the final leg of what your last words and final propositions would be, I'm going to run this by you. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to, because I don't want to do anything that would. But I'm bringing it up for good reason. I'm sure you followed the ad hoc committee's work in Parliament concerning Ken Ofori-Atta, our finance minister. Some have said, I'll not go to the accusations, the 7-point list and what has happened there. But some have said that in terms of an IMF deal, sometimes your arrowhead is important. Who is leading the conversation? People say the finance minister may be leading the conversation is not the best. I just read in the Daily Guide this morning, Dr. Makesibe Yeboah, former chair of the Finance Committee of Parliament, saying that we should let, the finance minister read the budgets, at least. Do you have a take on this? Like I said, you don't, if you feel uncomfortable.
No. In fact, I share my opinion.
Go with.
As a typical Ghanaian, there's something that we always say. The devil,
is better than the angel you don't.
So yes, we may have all those problems against the finance minister. I don't disprove that. But we don't know what the next person is going to bring to the table.
Interestingly, the same Dr. Makesibe Yeboah has had his name come up in terms of being a likely replacement.
Oh, okay. But for me, the fear of the unknown is what I would say we should tread cautiously. Because we have seen his performance, we've seen and we have all this against him. But probably he may be better than maybe the one that is coming. I'm not by this saying he's the one I want.
Right.
But I'm just being curious and careful about the one that probably may come and how his performance will be. Probably to do worse.
Right. Is it rational to keep him just on the back of the fact that, well, he has superintended all of this. So maybe we should let him conclude it, and then when things stabilize, we can get someone else. Is it rational?
You see, I think we also have to be a bit realistic, to be very frank with you. We should understand the dynamics. It's not only Ghana. We have global challenges. Even the best countries, the Western world, are suffering. It's not the fault of probably their leadership. So if, as you rightly said, for 6 years, he's been through it, COVID, he's seen it, probably there are some plans that he's put in there with his team. And so if he said, yeah, things are hard now, so quickly let's get him out. And then somebody comes in, he doesn't really know where we've come from and all the dynamics. That's why I think I have a problem. To be very frank with you.
Well, interesting thoughts you've shared there, and at least I am grateful that you decided to share your thoughts on that. What would be your concluding words, Mr. Jaho, as we have spoken about inflation, the real impact on the ordinary Ghanaian, where we find ourselves financially as a country? And I think maybe before your final words, you didn't tell us a bit about the app. You started and then
yes.
just before you conclude.
Yes. So if you go to our website, probably we should have it on screen.
So Ghana Statistical Service
website.
Right.
Then there's an app there called Personal Inflation Calculator. Once you log onto that, you have the items that we spend on. So you can enter your expenditure. So maybe a month you are spending 100 cedis on, let's say, transport, you are spending 50 on your accommodation. You put in it will guide you to see how inflation is affecting you personally, and then you can make your substitutions. So it's something that we encourage people to go. It's a new app, yes, we are still testing it, but to give an idea of how you are relating to inflation, and then you make this necessary adjustment as needed.
Well, Mr. Jaho, we are immensely grateful that you took the time to join us with your thoughts this morning. And I think this should continue. It shouldn't be. We're glad that Professor Enim, whenever we call on him, he shows up, and you have done same. I think it would be good. I've learned a lot today, and I'm sure many people watching us have done so too. So maybe every now and then, GSS, and so we can all learn. And also, maybe some of the tips you share, we can all cut our coats according to our cloth. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And that is John Foster Jaho, Head Price Statistics Unit of the Ghana Statistical Service. Well, that's only the first leg of the conversation we've had. There's been a spike in HIV cases in Ghana this year, some 24,000. What exactly is happening? Why are we here? And what is the way forward? More conversations coming up on the AM show. Do stay. We're live again on Drive Safe, and we're here at Top Tech Transport and Logistics. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Right before we get into the topic for today, let's look at our quiz question. So you think you know. Here it is. Okay, so we'll get the answer to that at the tail end of today's segment. We're here with the CEO of Top Tech Transport and Logistics, Cecil Gabra, once more. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you once more.
Thank you, Ben. And I'm also pleased to welcome you to my humble abode.
Today, I'd like us to look at bus driving and the causes of accidents with buses involved. We've had some gory accidents this year with buses involved. You remember the incident where some students were traveling back to school, University of Education Winneba students. We also had the one where involving some Chinese who were burned to a crisp in there, and how we can prevent such accidents. The ball is in your court.
Well, thank you so much. Whenever there's any accident, bus accident or accidents, and then I have a call from any station, in fact, I just tell them one thing: this is just the beginning. Yes, because it will happen again. It will happen because we don't take road safety serious in this country. If we are to advise ourselves on the 4 technical E's that we have in driving, I think that will go to stop the accidents. And then the biggest is enforcement and education. Right. Now, if I pick the buses, I ask myself these first questions. Who authorized this bus to be used? Has it gone through the various checks?
Is it roadworthy?
Is it roadworthy? That is it. Have you ever seen any bus going through DVLS system to check their roadworthy and so on?
But they have the stickers.
They have the stickers. So that's a big question mark that calls for an investigation. How did they manage to get these stickers, and why are they roadworthy if they are not? Some of the buses are rusted, and then they just patch them and paint them and so on. Are they carrying good ties? Who checks this? What about the driver himself? What about the speed limit? Every bus must have speed limiters installed in them so that they cannot drive after 80 kilometers per hour. They are supposed to carry logbooks, and then they need tachographs. The drivers must fill them up. And in addition, I'm calling for another enforcement where the National Road Safety Authority will even have jobs for people. I know Mr. Adontin is listening to me, right. And he's the new boss, acting boss. I'm just praying very hard that his position will be confirmed, because I've been working with him. What I advise is that let's make sure that the law is working, because again, the LI 2180 states categorically that, look, this bus driver or the buses must have all these things, and if they have it, road accidents will be minimized. Their ties, who checks their ties? Remember, I mentioned an audit, transport audit, before you be given a certificate to operate. And every month we should have these auditors coming to check on you, because as private as we are, what we think of is money. If the bus is not even good, we'll say, take them for one trip and come, we'll repair it with the money that you raise, which is so wrong. So the value of the human being this time is not respected at this particular point, because the vehicle is not so strong, and then you put people in it who could go, as my people will say, and then collect your money. So we need an audit for those transport companies to find out whether their vehicles are roadworthy and so on. Their drivers, are they trained? If they are not trained, bring them, we'll train them for you. It entails a lot. It is not an issue of go and sit in behind the steering wheel and then go. So that is why we will have a lot more of accidents. We need speed limiters to control their speed.
Right.
And even in the evening, we should have laws. How many drivers sit in the bus? At least we should have 3 buses, and it gets to a point in time we need to change whether we like it or not, because we are going for a long journey.
You say we should have 3 buses.
3 drivers.
3 drivers.
Yes, that's right. What I mean. 3 drivers in the bus that we need to, depending on the journey, we need to be changing. And then other drivers need to be monitoring, and we need monitors also in the vehicle, because you are carrying maybe 60 passengers. And these are all breadwinners of their family.
Yeah, so that goes into the bit about logbooks and all of that, and we'll move on to that conversation maybe the next time we get to meet. But how often, to avoid some of these bus crashes, how often should some of these drivers be changed? For example, let's say you are on a 6-hour journey. Let's say you're going up north and you're driving a bus every 2 hours, every 3 hours?
We have laws on fatigue. The law says that drive for 4 hours and take a rest for about 15 to 30 minutes and continue. But then for we road safety advocates, we always say that drive for 2 hours, get everybody in the vehicle to come out and stretch, at least for about 5 minutes. That's why I'm praying that we have a lot of stops, like what we have at on the Kumasi Road, Lindado. We have many of it, so that even for every hour, everybody stops
Why are you rushing? You are going to Kumasi and then you are in a rush. For what? What if you don't get to your destination? And this is what we need to think of. We need to educate the people who will be seated in the buses, because about 95% who board buses do not know how to drive.
All right.
And so when the driver is misbehaving, they don't know what to say. If the driver is speeding, others are so happy, oh, you be drone them. But it is so risky. What about the ball joints of this vehicle? What about the steering rack? When was it serviced? Okay, so all this, the braking system, the bus needs a longer period for it to stop. So when you go on your brakes, at least 100 meters, the bus slows down and stops. Under which speed? And this is it. The bus gets to a sharp curve and the driver doesn't care. He takes a sharp curve. The people in the vehicle will go left and come right. That is risky. You don't have that in bus driving. So we have a lot to talk about, and then I believe in actioning. Education and emergency goes together. It is not the road. It is always the driver. It is not the vehicle. It is always the driver's fault, and that is what we are seeing. If you look at the nature of bus accidents in this country, the collision, the recent one, it will say somebody was overtaken. If you, the bus driver, you are driving at a speed of 50, 60 kilometers per hour and somebody was doing a wrongful overtaking, you must be very sharp to know what to do. You can easily slow down the vehicle and stop it. So it is a major issue. If we don't tackle it, enforcement, education, put them into education. In this country, when we have the issue where a driver is arrested and the court will say, look, I've seized your license, you're not going to drive again. Oh, it's much easier for the driver to go to the nearest police station and collect a police extract and go for another driving license. And that is what is happening now.
Well, it is a sad picture, and like you said, if we don't do the right things, the accidents will keep happening, unfortunately. Especially for those with who are bus drivers or who may be part of these companies, the companies that we know, let's try to observe some of these things and save lives. But before we end on today's Drive Safe segment, here is our answer to the "so you think you know" bit. Oh yeah. And there is our answer. Thank you for staying with us on Drive Safe for today with me, Benjamin Akakpo. Let's look forward to the next one.
Thank you so much for joining us once again on the AM show. I'm Bernice Abu-Baidoo Lancer. Now, Ghana is experiencing a skill gap in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, known as STEM for short. Well, Joy Prime, in partnership with Dream Oval Foundation, Challenge Works, Found Divine, West Africa, and Dex Technology, is collaborating to bring you the all-new, exciting Ghana Science and Tech Explorer Prize. G-STEP is designed to promote STEM education in Ghana. About 50 junior high schools from the northern and southern sectors of the country have qualified to compete and produce technological solutions. Well, this morning I've been joined by Project Manager at West Africa, Toyin Dania. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
And great to have you here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I get excited whenever we talk about STEM because I think what STEM does is to make science less boring, more practical, not what we saw in school where everybody was running away from these really hard to grab concepts. So just briefly explain to us what this initiative is all about.
Thank you very much.
The initiative is to make science a bit more exciting and to really introduce the teachers to some of these new technologies as well, so that they can actually support the students. These are junior school students. They need to have an exciting way to get into the sort of careers of the future. And without science, technology and maths, they're not going to have a chance. So it's given them, you know, bite-sized attempts to find practical solutions within their home environment. So we're asking them to come up with prototypes that are from their kitchen to actually make it more practical and to support their knowledge that if they're learning from what's around them, they can continue to build on it. So it's not just in the classroom, it's also at home.
Interesting. So tell us the nature of the challenge. What's the format? How does it work?
It's an amazing challenge. We're in our second year. It's a pilot program. The most important part is accessing the schools, accessing the teachers, accessing the students. Once we have that flow, it's then about supporting them. So they're supported with mentors, they're supported with coaches, and that's what MEST Africa does. We sort out that area. Then we have other partners in the consortium who are offering the other solutions. DEX Technology is offering all of the science kits to help them use the kits that they may have been used to using at school, but making them a little bit more practical with defined areas. We're teaching them about being in groups. We want our girls in those groups, so we've got at least one girl in each of the groups, and we want the boys to sort of support their fellow students, the female students, to also embrace science and technology the way that they have. And it's really lovely just seeing how they've come together. The mentors are just so blown away with the talent that we have in Ghana and some of the solutions that they've come up with and how they've been working together with the teachers as well.
So in other challenges we've seen, so you'd usually have maybe a school from a certain sector, you know, in the final competition with another school from the southern sector. Is that how this is going to work?
We're trying not to do the north and south divide, but what's really great is the healthy competition. So we have 25 schools from the Accra region and another 25 in the Ashanti region, and they're all coming up with amazing ideas. So we're doing the judging in the southern side. So there's 25 schools that will be judged by our core set of judges, and then we'll have those same judges go up to the Kumasi side. And the only thing that's the same are the judges, but they don't get to see each other.
Okay.
till the final exhibition that we'll be doing in January. But what's great is they know about each other, and they're really working well with each other in that healthy competition.
So this challenge is not like what we're used to, where okay, you have 15 minutes to come up with a solution. These kids are actually given projects to work on. They have time to do it. They exhibit, they explain, they run you through what their projects are, what problems they're supposed to solve, and then judgment is made.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a Q&A element as well. So some of the things they weren't able to put into a 5-minute pitch is quite short for them learning. So they've had all this training. They've had pitching training, they've had training on their prototypes, they've had training with mentors to work on their presentation skills and how they communicate, and, you know, to give each other a chance. Who's the best communicator? Let them pitch, but everyone else has had a healthy input into the solution.
Right. So, you mentioned what MEST does, provide mentors, DEX Technology, but tell us about the other partners in this very wonderful initiative and what they offer.
Thank you. So Dream Oval are the lead partner for this particular project, and they work with challenges all over the country, and they've been our experts. We also have Challenge Works who do this sort of project in the UK, and they've brought that technology here for us to showcase how we can actually impart the same sort of skills but localized.
Right.
And what's really interesting is seeing where some of the challenges are and working together to make them better. That's why this is the pilot. So by the time we get to our next steps, which is year 3, we'll be doing 100 schools.
Wow.
And we're really looking forward to implementing some of the challenges that we've had and the successes, and keeping on board our mentors, because they've really had a wonderful journey as well, and the teachers usually get left behind. So what's really good is they're part of this journey as well, and we're looking forward to gifting the best school and the best teacher.
Right. So there's Joy Prime, there's Founder Vine. What are they also bringing on board?
Foundivine are part of our core group, and they're bringing on board their expertise within working with projects for young people, especially in schools. So the junior high school elements are where they're bringing us their support. And sorry, you said the...
Joy Prime?
Joy Prime,
Giving
yourselves.
you,
You're giving us all of this wonderful airtime and really bringing out to the public.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, we need STEM to be really promoted, and you're giving us so much airtime to actually do that. And we're hoping that people watching, especially parents, will really encourage their children to really get into STEM so that they've got, you know, a chance at those wonderful careers that are coming in the future.
We are really excited to be a part of this, I must say. So what are some of the ideas that are being developed by the kids?
Fantastic question. I'm not to give away too much, but it's about the SDG goals. It's about climate change. It's about pollution. It's about waste. It's about everything that you see around you. How can you practically help your community? So that's what we want, that recognition that it's not some big project out there that you can't fathom. It's a project that's on your doorstep. You've seen that there's a lot of waste. How are you going to deal with it? If you even just organize to have a weekly clean up, that's doing something for your community. But how do you clear it up? So can you do a prototype that actually encourages your community to do that, encourages your school to do that? That's one of the projects. There's quite a lot, but most of them are around sanitation, waste, in the environment, all really about those sort of areas.
So what activities have been carried out so far, and what is the next step?
Wow, they've been inducted, which has been giving them a whole idea about what this program is all about, and then they've been given by Dext, you know, the science kit, and to go through the science kit and to look at what science in technology looks like, you know. So they've gone to Ashesi University, they've gone to NUST to actually see things in practice. So it's not just this faraway illusion. And what's really great about their enthusiasm is they've taken that back to their ideas and refining them and making them a little bit more tighter, a little bit more firm with the ideas that they're picking up. But they're learning about communication, they're learning about developing their prototypes, and they're learning communication skills so that they can actually communicate and present to us. We want them to have those presentation skills that they'll be using throughout the rest of their lives.
Wonderful. You've given us a hint of what the future looks like, scaling this up to about 100 schools, but what more can you tell us about the future and what the big dream is for the G-STEP program?
The dream is STEM. It's getting STEM into every school. It's getting it into the fabric of families and parents so they understand that their children need to have these skills if they're looking for careers of the future. It's really embodying that it's exciting, it's new, it's developmental. It can go into so many different areas, but the fundamental basics of understanding coding, prototyping, etc., is what the future is going to be all about. So 100 schools, 1,000 schools, million schools, all the schools in Ghana, and then showcasing it to hopefully the continent.
I like the idea of the continent. That's the bigger goal, because you know what, Toyin is Nigerian, and just before we came on air, I was talking about the wonderful relationship between Ghana and Nigeria. So taking it across the West African sub-region, even largely to the continent, is a good one. But thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for bringing STEM to the doorstep of a lot of children here in Ghana. We know that these projects are usually not easy to do, and so when organizations put it upon themselves to do this, you just must show appreciation for the efforts they put in. Toyin Dania is project manager, Mist Africa, and this morning we've been talking about the G-STEP program. Is there any way people can stay, you know, in contact with you, social media, so that they can keep following up on?
Thank you very much for that. They can. I'm just going to give that to you now. So our G-STEP program is gstep.org, GH.
gstep.org. .gh.
Yeah, .gh, thank you.
All right, okay. So if you're a parent, a teacher, somebody who helps young people, and you're also interested in STEM, then that is the website to go to, gstep.org.gh. You can follow up. I'm sure there are numbers there. You can contact them, make all the inquiries you need. But you know that STEM is the future. And so starting now will put your child or your community a step
ahead. Let me say thank you once again for joining us this morning. Well, right here on the show, we've got a lot more for you. We have a conversation about HIV/AIDS, and that's why I've got that red thing here. And we'll be speaking to the Ghana AIDS Commission. Red Ribbon Month, that's what it is. The statistics are not too exciting, and so it tells you that we need to do a lot of work in that regard. We'll be back to talk about that shortly. Do stay. I'm glad you could stay with us. Let's engage the Ghana AIDS Commission now on its Red Ribbon Month. Like I mentioned, the statistics are worrying. More than 24,000 people have tested positive this year alone, and they include children. What's the Commission doing about it? Well, we will be speaking to the Ghana AIDS Commission. And it's a sponsor of this year's Hits FM Schools Reunion, which is coming off this Saturday. So we'll also be talking about why they've decided to support the schools reunion. Dr. Fred Nanapoku is Director of Technical Services at the Ghana AIDS Commission. Good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning.
Great to have you here.
Yes, good to be here.
Yeah, we've seen the statistics in the papers, we've heard about it on radio. The Commission clearly is worried. Tell us what Red Ribbon Month is about and what you hope to achieve with the activities you've lined up for this month.
Right, thank you very much. Red Ribbon Month is the month of November. And you know, World Day is celebrated on 1st of December. So a month prior to that, we celebrate Red Ribbon Month.
Okay.
And every month of November, we dedicate the time to show solidarity to people who have been affected by HIV, people living with HIV, those who have lost their lives. And then we also rethink, re-strategize, look at how best we can continue, in quotes, the fight against the pandemic. So it is a very good and solemn month. At the same time for re-strategizing and thinking, rethinking, and devising new innovations and strategies to help curb the infection. Right.
So what activities are lined up for the Red Ribbon Month? I know we are way into the month. We have just a few days to end it, but what else should people expect?
Right, so we'll continue our media engagement. It's very critical. I mean, as I was talking to a few of people a couple of days back, they keep saying that we don't hear of HIV in the media. So we think that it's high time we really intensify the media activities. Both the mass media, as we are here talking, is part of the entire conglomerate of activities. We engage social media, send messages all across, and all that. So that will be intensified in the month of November. Secondly, we are thinking of having a public lecture. In fact, the public lecture is slated for 26th of November. This is this coming Thursday. We have a public lecture to explain some of the issues to the public and to all. In fact, everybody is invited, including Joy FM and all the media houses are invited to this activity. We also intensify HIV testing services.
Great.
In the various
facilities. It's still free, right?
It's still free. Right. It's still free. And luckily, we now even have self-testing, which comes with a little cost. It's like buying a pregnancy test kit and doing that.
So are you? Do we get this from the AIDS Commission, or we can walk into any pharmacy and ask for it?
Currently, we have a few pharmacies and a few social marketing organizations that have them. We're looking at how best to roll out into the entire country and into various pharmacies. But currently, if you get to DKT, you will be able to access some of these self-testing kits. So it is very important that people get to know their status, because when you know your status, whether positive or negative, then you can advise yourself.
Right.
You can go for treatment, which is very effective, highly effective, suppresses the viruses. make you unable to transmit the virus any longer.
Because the viral load reduces?
Very low, very low. It's like that if you have unprotected sex, in that instance, you will not transmit the virus. You become healthy, and you might not even get to the 8th stage.
Wow.
So that these, some time ago when we saw people who are skinny, very ill, with a lot of conditions, on TV and other places will become a thing of the past. In fact, that is the global agenda, that by the year 2030, we end AIDS.
Right. So for those who may not be aware of this, Doc, just run us through how it works. From the point of having the HIV to AIDS, because someone may not understand that, because we always said, oh, HIV/AIDS. So people think it's just one thing. So just, you know, give us some more explanation on what you mean by that.
So HIV is the virus, and anybody can contract the virus. It's no respecter of person. And when you do contract the virus, you might not show any symptoms or signs. In fact, what you might have is in the first few weeks, maybe about 2 weeks, you just have a febrile illness, like trying to catch up malaria or a very little cold or something. And that is it. And everything just vanishes. And the viruses will be in your body, multiplying, destroying your immune system. And it can take years, 5, 10 years without medication, and you don't have any other symptoms or signs until the immune system comes so very low to the point where you can no longer fight diseases. Then you catch any kind of illnesses. You have severe diarrhea, you have chest infections, you have skin infections, and then you are getting to the 8th stage. And the 8th stage will have 4 stages: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4, right? And the more severe the condition becomes, then you are going to the other side, yes, of the spectrum. So then you have age stage 4. And even you can get what we call some skin cancers, like Kaposi sarcoma and things like that, lymphadenopathy, generalized lymphadenopathy, and many, many more illnesses.
So what treatment does is that it prevents you from getting to the 8th stage, but you still may have the virus, but like you said, it will be reduced to the level where it almost becomes insignificant.
Right. So in your bloodstream, the virus will not be detected when you are on the antiretroviral medication. And then you have some of the viruses in the latent states, like a sleeping bulldog, sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
so
that's a nice description, yeah.
Right, so quite a few might be lacking in some of the cells in this latent state, in the cells in your body. And they are inactive, they are not multiplying, they are not causing much havoc.
Okay.
That is what the antiretroviral does. In that stage, you are not you can detect the viruses in your blood, you can transmit the virus, but you still have some of the viruses in your body in the latent stage, yes.
Right. Doc, so I mean, unfortunately, for some time now, we've seen such a rise in infections, and particularly the Commission has expressed worry about the number of children who seem to be getting infections. Some of them mother-to-child transmissions, they were not aware, and some of the young people are actually acquiring the viruses through their own activities. Do we know what is driving this rise in numbers?
No, you see, basically, though in recent times we have not really looked at the mode of transmission, what is really actually, basically we know that 80% of infections in most parts of the world, including Ghana, is through through sex. Yeah. Whether it is anal sex, vaginal sex, or whatever, 80%. So what it really means is that people are having sex, unprotected sex, whether vaginal or anal vaginal. That is it, unprotected sex. And there are so many reasons why people have sex. When people are happy, right? It's a natural phenomenon with human beings to have sex. So when people are happy, they want to have sex. when people are hard pressed, under stress, especially the men, they want to really have sex. Ladies, sometimes when they're hard pressed financially, they want to in quotes, sell some sex and get money. Whatever they do to really get something.
Right.
So they do transactional sex as a days. So that is the basic underlying factor for increased
So a lot of
HIV.
people are having unprotected sex, basically.
Unprotected sex, and it's like fire. If you have one small bit somewhere, it can catch up the whole entire community or entire...
And is it also the case that these people having unprotected sex also probably have multiple partners, and so that's how the spread is happening? Because if you have two people who have AIDS who are just sticking to themselves, then it wouldn't be spreading
multiple
that much.
concurrent partnerships or serial partnerships. 6 months or 3 months, I'm with this guy, or I'm with this lady. The next 6 months, we break up. I get another one.
Right.
Then you get another one. So serial partnership is equal or tantamount to having multiple partners. Somebody say, well, I don't really engage in multiple concurrent partnerships. I have only one boyfriend. But you ask yourself, like the past few...
In about a year, you have about 3 or 4 boyfriends.
Yes, you've had about 3 or 4, 5. And each one of them you have sex with. And you don't know who the other person had been with. So then it becomes something that is multiplying. And then if there is an infection somewhere, it just keeps spreading from one person to the other. It's just unfortunate. So what we preaching, I don't know, we are not preacher men, but what we're saying is that naturally, there are some people who have a tendency of having sex. I mean, like, it is, their hormones are over the roof, right? We, as a commission, are not religious bodies.
You're not interested in morality. You leave that to the church.
Yes. We basically want to come in. But what we're saying is, protect yourself. If you are in that category of person who have a difficult controlling or have a very strong sexual edge and it's always on the, so you just have to protect yourself. How do you do that? Simple, straightforward. Use of condoms consistently and correctly. It is not about today you use, tomorrow you don't use, because you don't know who. It's not written on the forehead of anybody that, hey, this person is HIV positive. And as I said, from the earlier on, you can have HIV
and not
5, 10 years, 15 years, nothing. So even as I'm sitting, I might be positive, but nobody knows. Unless I go do the test and tell you, or you do the test on me. So we're saying that correct, consistent use of condoms is one of the most effective way of prevention.
There are those who are advocating for free distribution of condoms to young people especially. Is the commission looking at doing that?
That is fine. We do that.
Do you have the funds for that?
We do that. We have program condoms, which are free.
Okay.
And I'm hoping that at the 26th of November, when we have our old school youth reunion, we'll be able to distribute some free condoms. And I mean, distributing to young active couples or young active youth, it's okay. It's good, and we'll be doing that. In fact, we have been doing that, and we'll continue doing that. The only challenge sometimes is the lack of adequate funding for that. So we don't really have the condoms in the system as much as we want. The free condoms, not condoms in general.
Yeah. So there are those that are for sale in pharmacies and other outlets.
Lot of new, innovative design condoms that are ultra thin, studded, right? Flavored, different. In fact, ebony condoms are available, DKT condoms are available, a lot of them. So everybody, please, you have no excuse to not to protect yourself.
All right. So tell us more about your partnership with the Hits FM Schools Reunion. Beyond the possible distribution of free condoms, what else do you want to achieve with this particular partnership?
It's a very wonderful platform. The school reunion is a very wonderful platform to reach a lot of people. youth, adults. In fact, I'll meet some of my mates. Yes, and I mean you catch up with a few friends as a thing. So we believe that that platform is great, and to send messages across to everybody to protect yourself. I mean, if you can't, just be safe. We will also ensure that there's HIV testing available. Right. Free testing will be available, and I'm sure DKT and other social marketing companies will bring along some self-test kits for those who really want it. Commercial condoms, whichever different flavors, chocolate flavor, strawberry, vanilla, everything.
Interesting. Right, Doc. So for those who may want to do the self-testing, because we also know that one of the reasons people shy away from testing is the stigma attached to being HIV positive and the fact that they wouldn't want somebody to know. So once you do the test yourself and you find out that you are positive, what do you do from there?
No. The test kits have information.
Okay.
Great. There is information pack with a test kit. Tell you what to do, who to contact. There's a contact number you can call.
Fantastic.
Talk to 9 and talk to service providers, get counseling, show you where you can even get the ARVs. In fact, there are more than 600.
Are they still free?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. They are still free, causing a lot of financial burden on the government and our partners. Okay. But there's nothing we can do now. But I hope that that is why we are preaching that, we are preaching that people should really protect themselves, because when you're able to protect yourself, you save a lot of money.
And you even, help yourself live longer and not have to deal with sometimes the emotional
stress. The burden
stress
of taking pills every day for the rest of your life. It's not an interesting thing at all. So we encourage people to protect themselves.
Interesting, Doc. So, just run us through again. So, on Saturday, the 26th of November, the school's reunion is happening, but you mentioned that on Thursday, which is the 24th, you'll be having a lecture.
Right.
And
at the International Conference Center
to commemorate Red Ribbon Month.
Right.
Okay, so...
And then we will have the World AIDS Day itself on 1st of December.
Great.
And we will have that at the forecourt of the State House.
Okay, and what exactly, can people also just walk in there and do free testing?
It is open to the public.
Okay.
World AIDS Day is for everybody. We are showing solidarity with people who have been infected. We are preaching about prevention of HIV. We are preaching that if you are positive,
take your drugs.
Take your drugs. Right?
Even if you are praying for a miracle, still take your drugs.
Certainly. If you get malaria, you pray, all right, but you take your anti-malaria. It's a similar situation. And then we are saying that protect yourself. There is the condom. Currently, we have the pre-exposure prophylaxis, which are also medication like taking Daraprim for malaria in pregnancy, or traveling to an endemic environment. You take some medicine to protect you from catching malaria. Similarly, there is that for HIV.
But is that
currently with the high grade, we are giving to the high risk groups.
Like which people, doctors?
No. This is for sex workers, men who have sex with men, discordant couples.
Okay, so this is available. I'm just trying to understand.
Right.
This is what available at the commission or in pharmacies or prescribed by doctors?
It's a program medicine that is being given out.
Okay.
So in some program managers have it.
Okay.
Like civil
society. And it's taken before every intercourse, or?
Right. There's a schedule that we have to take.
Okay.
7 days prior to engaging in a risk behavior.
Okay.
And then you continue. And if you want to stop, I think about 7 days, you take it and then you can stop.
Interesting. Right. Very interesting one there.
Yeah.
Right. So Dr. Fred Anapoku is Director, Technical Services, Ghana AIDS Commission, and we've been talking about the unexciting statistics we are recording, seeing that a few years back, we were on the road to getting to that point where we could have, by now, been recording very minimal infections of HIV and AIDS, but unfortunately the trend changed and it went upward, and now we are seeing such a rise in the number of infections. The good news is that testing is free. It is better to know your status so that you can advise yourself, as Dr. Nana Poku said. It is also good so that if you need any medical interventions, you get it as soon as possible, and you don't have to graduate to the AIDS stage where it becomes almost impossible to treat and you are basically just waiting to cross over to the other side. So do take advantage of the Red Ribbon Month. You can visit us at the Hits FM Schools Reunion on Saturday, the 26th of November. The Ghana AIDS Commission will be there offering free testing. Also, treatment is free. So once you test positive, they will help you out. Do you offer counseling services? Because sometimes just the thought of being HIV positive, and I've heard stories. For some people, it's not so much about the disease, because we know, like we've been told, that once you're at HIV stage, you treat it, you're fine. It's about the feeling of betrayal, because I've heard stories of women who literally break down in the doctor's office because she's been faithful to her partner. She's never had a partner outside her marriage. And so this is almost like, okay, my husband definitely brought this from somewhere. I mean, I mean, where is this coming from? I have been faithful. And then the feelings of betrayal, mistrust begin to weigh down on them. How are your counseling services offered?
Right. There is pre-test counseling and then the post-test counseling. These are done in the facilities. The National AIDS Control Program, they have a lot of counselors within the facilities, the ERT centers, the PMTCT centers, and in fact, some persons living with HIV are counselors themselves, and then they do counseling.
Okay.
Yes, because peer counseling it's a little more effective in most circumstances. So persons living with HIV are counselors. It is done in the facilities. And then we have some individuals who can be reached within our communities. They are persons living with HIV. They have received training, they have received orientation, they know what to say, what not to say, how to support you. And then even the persons living with HIV, the network of persons living with HIV have support groups that give support to people. But I know that most people will initially won't be comfortable joining such support groups and things like that. So we want to, I mean, just be free, call on us. We will link you up with an individual or a group of people that can support you to overcome your stigma. And as you rightly said, sometimes self-stigma even kills more than the disease itself. You blame yourself. You think you have done something wrong, or you've not done anything. So why should this happen to me? You move right down into the depression, which could even harm you more than the virus itself. So please come out and then seek counseling from our counseling centers, from the Rich Hospital right here.
Okay.
And there are about 600, 700 facilities that gives ARVs, the antiretroviral drugs, and all scattered all over the country. So you don't need to die in isolation. You don't at all.
Life moves on even after HIV infection.
I mean, it's an infection. Actually, it's an infection. I mean, like it's like a common cold, right? Excuse me to say, COVID kills faster. It's more fatal than HIV as it is, right? And we lived with it. People lived with it. So don't stigmatize yourself. Don't allow anybody to stigmatize, and don't, as an individual, stigmatize people who have HIV, because you might not even know how come they got their infection, whether from mother to child, whether through blood transfusion. You don't know. Even a common accident where people get injured. Okay. And then there are exchange of blood. I mean,
like contact body to body
carrying people to the facilities can lead somebody to get. even when you go to your barber. Right? And he doesn't use sterilizer. Sometimes they put the machines in the sterilizer. It's not on. The UV light that is supposed to kill any virus. It's not on. But he just
pulls it out
as if it's really under sterilization. So, and you don't know how come somebody had it. Maybe through blood transfusion. So, in fact, there is no basis.
Yeah. Just don't judge people.
There's no basis for it. A single act. You might be the saint of whatever, right?
And you can still get AIDS.
And then you can still get AIDS, either through your mother or even a single act that you had with somebody you thought was a very good friend who looks innocent like myself.
Who was a saint like you? two saints.
Right?
Yeah.
Can land you in having the virus. Yeah. So, I mean, no basis.
Yeah. All right. So basically what we are saying this morning is get tested. Do not stigmatize against people living with HIV. And please get treatment when you find out that you're positive or a person living with HIV. Also protect yourself. Like Doc says, if you cannot control your sexual drive, just protect yourself. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And we'll be following up on your activities with the Hits FM Schools reunion and also your lecture, which is coming off on Thursday. Dr. Fred Danapuku is Director, Technical Services, Ghana AIDS Commission, and we've been talking about Red Ribbon Month. Now, the planting for food and jobs market, I'm sure by now you know about that. It started at the ministries, moved on, and now it's at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. We'll be bringing you more on this shortly. Do stay. Some 30 minutes to the top of the hour. We are going now to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, where my colleague Michael Ashale is standing by. The Planting for Food and Jobs market is there now. You know, it's been moving from the ministries to other venues. This time around is at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Hello, Michael. What can you report? Are people trooping to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle like they did the other venues?
So currently we are at the Obra spot, very close to the Kwame Nkrumah interchange and circle, and this is where government's PFJ market is coming to. Already many people have come in their numbers, hoping to get their share of what has been promised as the cheap food produce that has been brought all the way from the farm gate here. I was speaking to some of the women, although they are still sorting out the plantain and hoping that they'll be able to sell their produce as fast as possible here. Former Minister for Agric, former Deputy Minister, I beg your pardon, for Agric, George Odrom, is also around today, and he's looking at how the process is going. And so you can see that many people are already here bargaining, trying to get a good price for a bunch of plantains. Some of them have to go to the extent of counting the fingers per bunch before they settle on what they will buy. Let me try and speak to some of them and see, I mean, whether this meets their expectation. I mean, good morning, no? Uba Hache. Na uni sense na eko.
Oh, nyame adum bibia ekoso kama.
Na ube mu what be sabo no?
Maybe sabo no.
Na mo se den.
Ebo no mo si 10 cedi wo mu na 15 na 20 Ghana. Me kwa 20 de na meyi.
Na eso weni.
Oh, so many because we come market unya ne sa. Enti so many pa.
Enti weni nyina de ama 20 Ghana cedi.
20 Ghana.
But our market and better the same.
Hey, market we no muti no miensa 5 cedi and 9 5 cedi. Mako 4 say 5 cedi.
And I thought 20 Ghana, because I'm going to 200 oh.
Hey, Obeton be 100 Ghana.
Na one because I better be brave.
Say sikasem. Misika samu na enye nti anti na meyi ba akopɛ no.
What's your name, Frozen?
Papa di anka meyi bebre.
What's your name, Frozen?
I show me the Vivian.
Vivian, okay. Vivian, me da se pa na when you na mo de ba yo na ntem no na mo ka se adam when kwa body nkwa na mo de ba.
Me bi sa se body nkwa se to mo se o mo do abibi mu enso beba. Nti enya abibi mu no so kan ho ana che sa boa ye.
Den anka o pesa mo de ka ho.
Se si anu se we body e de ni kontomre ne nyaadoa ni ntosi ne ne ma moko ne ma na eko ene nwu
Great. Vivian, thank you very much. So Vivian has been telling me that she's doing a cost analysis of what she would have gotten from the PFJ market here, compare that to what she would have bought on the market. She told me earlier that 4 fingers would have sold to her on the ordinary market for 5 Ghana cedis, but she's getting way more than that from this bunch here. She thinks that it's a better market here, and she's getting it cheaper here. Well, it's only the females that have come to this market. Some males have also come here trying to shop for themselves. Bossman, Oba Toby. Bossman, Oba Toby.
I'm Baba Toby.
I hear about it.
Almost a beton, Marco, and Timbabe to do back. Namja Kofi. Because me carbon to Namco and Pesia, Bacuseno, Munuseno, a bit me a Pemame, maybe my deep as 15 cities. Oh, it's about did go away 10 cities and the coffee crana. At least, a bit me at the whole bear 1 week run, New Year. And to know, Mamma told you, and you know, I'm a boy at the morning.
What already?
Oh, me name man at here. Me told you I no go on ma me ma. And no you see one ma. We me talk go see now. Me mano, I bet me on one bear say 1 week. Because me here adwuma me coffee ntem. Omo here. Maybe I'm a coffee kra no mo kra no omo ni san ye. Na able no omo de aye beans ni kokko.
Where they are so any?
Oh, fine.
But now earlier no catch me say body and quantity anka. I'm for being count, and I'm for count.
Body and idea, the bar and contumely any maconi adwa. About the sana, contumely so for Yadwa so for Macosefo, and to the bus and some of the count dear. Nice, yeah, and once a man, no.
What are they saying?
They're from Kwasamoa.
Thank you very much. So, Asamoah here has also been telling me that, well, it seems like a better deal coming to buy plantain from the PFJ market here. Now, his only concern is, well, would it be only plantain? Would I prefer that you have the other ingredients that make up his diet, so that it would have made it easier rather than come here and buy it cheap and then buy the other ingredient from the other market here. So the bargaining is ongoing on, and this gentleman is here with his what we call Ghana Must Go. Are you here to fill your Ghana Must Go?
Yes, please.
So what's your target? What have you heard about the PFJ market?
Oh, we are the coordinators.
Oh, okay.
And then we just want to let the public know that some of these things that comes here can be cheaper. Okay. So we are bringing it to the doorstep of everybody to come and patronize, to make sure that we need to patronize our Ghana-made foods. Okay. Yes, so we are bringing through the introduction of the PFJ market. The minister, Dr. Akakpo, has made us to understand that food is there enough to feed the public. Okay. So he's bringing the food now to the doorsteps of everybody. Okay.
So whose farm is this from?
This is from Agogo.
I see.
Yes.
But whose farm? Is the person here?
No, the person is not here.
I see.
We arrange with the farmers out there who has the produce on farm to make sure that they make the food available in Accra for everybody to buy at a cheaper price as compared to the open market.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir. I wish you all the best with filling your Ghana Must Go. But the crowd is getting thick by the minute. Many more people are coming here, and it doesn't look like anybody is prepared to come here. Everybody seems to chance upon the market and they decide to pass. So people are here in their office attire. People are here. They just alight from the vehicles just around the Circle station, and then decide to come to the market and get their share of the PFJ market produce here. So it's still ongoing here. Let me find some of the women who will probably walk us through the different prices that we have here and what goes into the pricing that we have here at the PFJ market here. But I am told that It ranges from the lowest, which is here, the bunch here, and then it goes all the way to the most expensive at the end here. Let me find George Odro, is the former Agric Minister, former Deputy Minister for Agric, and he will speak to us pretty shortly. Are you here to buy?
I'm the Director of Agriculture here.
I see. Okay. Wonderful. I mean, how is the market going for you?
It's really a good idea because it's pushing people. You know, the price of foodstuff these days are high. I personally went to Akakpo and I bought a bunch at 35 cedis, but buying it at 10 cedis, I think it's a very good and a laudable idea which will cushion us, especially the workers. We'll do our best to help people come around.
How much are you buying yourself?
I'm buying about 50 Ghana, 5 bunches, send it to my family members who have not heard of it. I'm trying to support them.
I see. You're doing a very good job. Thank you very much. Yeah. So let's find some of the women. I'm going to try to walk us through. Madam, Pastor Buami, what goes into the consideration for what goes here, how much it costs and all that?
Here is 10 cedis. Here is 15 cedis. And then here is 20. And here is 25.
I see. So the last one at the end is 25 cedis?
Yeah.
So yeah. That's the most expensive that you have here?
Yes.
Wow. What goes into the consideration for this one should be 10 cedis, that one should be 15 and 20?
It depends on the weight.
So, but I don't see any weighing machine here.
Our hand is weighing machine.
So demonstrate that to me. How would you do that, for instance?
See this one.
Okay.
This one. They are not the same. Yes. So this one is 15 and then this one is 10.
So by just lifting it, you can tell the difference in the weight?
Yes.
But you're sure you're not cheating anyone?
No.
How long have you been doing this? I mean, how can we trust your biological weighing machine?
If you hold this one and then you hold this one, you can see said this one is the weight is too much than this. Yes. Yes.
So that's how you've arranged it from the less lighter one to the heaviest. I see. Interesting one. So that's how you arrange them. So this is the lightest, is 10 cedis.
Let me show you one.
I see. Okay, so she's going to show us another one. So she's just telling me that she weighs it herself. Okay.
If you hold this one, you can see said this one is different from this.
So of the two, which one is heavier?
This one.
Wow. So this will go for 20 cedis.
Yes, and this go for 15 cedis.
Interesting. So you just had a first hand showing you how it's weighed in the market here. So, but at the farm, how much did you buy it?
Oh, it depends. Sometimes you can buy some 10 cedis. Sometimes you can buy some 8 cedis. The one we buy for 8, we sell it 10 cedis. The one we buy it like 12 cedis, we sell it 15 cedis. But when you go to market, the one we are selling it here, 15 cedis, you will buy it 40 cedis or 50 cedis.
Well, you don't own any of the farms that bring this to Accra?
No. Cash and carry.
Okay. So you don't own any of the farms?
No.
So how does it feel that the same produce that you pick from the farm gate, some other people sell it at an increased cost or a higher cost?
That one here, we are selling it here. If the person came here and buy it and go, you can't follow the person to go and see whether she's going to sell it or not. So as for that one here, we can't say anything about it. Yes.
Didn't get your name?
Baby. Baby. Baby Trobo constituency. I'm from Trobo constituency.
See, but the name on your certificate, what's the name?
Alifa. Yeah.
Baby Halifa, thank you very much. So, Halifa just walked us through some of the consideration that goes into how they arrange the different produce or the different types of plantain that we have here. So the bunches have been arranged according to weight. And she tells me they do that by just lifting or comparing two different bunches, and they can tell right away which one should go for which price. The fingers don't necessarily go into the cost, right? There's a number of fingers on the bunch going to the consideration for how much it's supposed to be costing.
Brother, me make to say me make bro.
Okay, Katrina Yanko. So, more more dream price no more. How do you settle on the price? Say, okay, in Sunday one na ushe ni mudru na there.
Yeah, Madam was sick. Michia washefo ne watifo. Body no, obi ho no mo a uso mo a. Wo hu say aduane wo emu. Ebi ho no nso a uso mo a eso. Nanso nensa no emu na ha. Aduane nim. Enti ye hwe emuduro no. Se uso we se museya. Uso we museya. We emudu pa. So ahu. Na ukoso fuflo mu a. Anu uso mu a wo meda kura enu eni. So ahu etu ntimi fa we. Anyway, abo no anyepe. Anu ti na ma wo hu say ebi 20 cedis. And ebi nso 15 cedis no. Sa na tie. Aha. Et media me hu ni say aduane na egu ha say ni mo no. Se wo de toto abonten de no a asusu bebredam. Se wo abonten ne so obi bebo amane say bode no ane edwom de ne ye pawabo sini hu okwa abonten a ye tin be miensa enan 5 cedis na so se be wo kan no we eni se enan aye 5 wa we asanta hankwa na ye 10 eti bode ye kita minya 15 cedis so eti di entina be ka chem se eya de kro anya pe asusu bebredam na ya mama ye enka no kro ema ye ho na se onipa so eya ade a mama ye fa empaibo enter na chi na ye mpia no na afensu ye nyi na ye onipa ye ade o sa ye minister no emu kwasem ni oma ye ade oma mpani ene na pamfo oma ye ade se oma tie ganafo yesu se aduane aya ebo ne aya den na ye ko dwa so ye ntimi nto na mo no matimi akọfa bi di abasai obi ya meto bi we to na ye ton no anya adwumayefo nko a ayo bi a. So Abishis is one of the female attendants here who is helping with the sale of the bunches of plantain. Let me wrap up with Honorable former Deputy Minister of Agric, George Odro. Sir, please, so you've been here. How long have you been following the selling at the PFG market of the plant?
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm asking you, how long you've been following this?
I've been following it since the day it started.
I see.
Yeah, I've been part of it, so I've been following every day.
So major concern for many people. But before that, let me ask you, what's your relation to the ministry that is in charge of this?
Oh, I used to be the former deputy minister, but I'm now the advisor to the agric minister.
Okay, so as advisor, I've heard from many people who are asking that why just plantain? It doesn't take just plantain to eat. So where are the other produce that you promised?
No, it's not only plantain. When we started, we've done plantain, yam, oil, rice, kokonte, and tuzafi, and you keep on adding. So it's not only plantain.
So for today, when can they expect the other ones that you promised?
Today we are doing rice, oil, kokonte, tuzafi, and coconut oil at the ministry, not at this location. Here is only plantain, but at the ministry we are doing what I just told you.
I see. Let me thank you.
All right, let's go to Facebook now. So that was my colleague, Michael Papani Ashali at the Planting for Food and Jobs Market at Kwame Nkrumah Circle. Let's go to Facebook now. We're asking you this question. What can you buy with 50 Ghana cedis in Ghana? And these are some of your responses. All right, at Alvin Jackson GH says pure water. And at Joseph Van Awa says gobe and plantain. Roy Clicky says Samsu oil. Okay. Doku Stina says toilet paper. Andrews says, okay. Wanda says at Medina Estate near local government institute, it could buy fufu and goat meat served with light soup. Nana Ikuya says we'll prepare gobe, simple crab, beans, 6 cedis. Okay, so Nana's giving us a list. Let's go through Nana's list. Okay. Preparing gobe, beans 6 cedis, palm oil 5 cedis, onion 2 cedis, tomatoes 5 cedis, pepper 2 cedis, fish 10 cedis, plantain 5, frying oil 5 cedis, akakpo change of 10 cedis, bean stew and fried plantain. Okay, so if you're looking for ideas of what to eat today, Nana just gave you one with a list. Paparazzi, yeah, says just look at this and tell me what the value is the same, then I can tell you that they can buy. Okay, let's go to Abdullah, who says he doesn't want to answer this question. Jabir says the day has broken and the talking down of the city continues. Agenda Media House, which is not true. We're just asking a question, trying to, gauge your thoughts. Ibrahim says we should ask Bernice, Abu-Baidoo, Lansa, and Benjamin Akakpo. Azuma says not even 1 liter of Queen cooking oil in Tuna, Savannah region. Ibrahim Mohammed says what's a question of the century? All right. Richard says pure water. E.T. Mensa says from Wa says plenty like what? Haj Malik says morning tea. This money can feed me for at least a day, and that's fulfilling enough. Even if 1 CD can still buy water with it to satisfy my thirst, why do we always want to downgrade what we have? Okay, we shall also get there. Emmanuel Ankuma is on that beat. John Anna says a lot depending on where you stay. Okay, Blessed Azur is also giving us a list. Beans 1 cup, palm oil, pepper, onions, ginger, salt and spices to prepare bean stew. Or you can get gari and fancy kenke and use some of the bean stew for gobe and the rest for fancy kenke with the bean stew. If it doesn't last for 3 days, consult your doctor. It has been vetted and approved by the Ghana Economic Management Team. Thank you very much. SC Maya says breakfast. David Sapong, okay. Cyril Quest says half a bag of cement. Amma says, okay, some toffee. Let's see what others are saying. Montana Star says, nothing, my brother, nothing. Justice is saying that okay. Tilly Love Asantua says pork and yam and chips. So still on our Facebook page, that is JoyNews on TV. Former President John Dramani Mahama says because of the economic pressure, Christians are not paying their offering. Let's see what you have been saying on that. All right, so economic hardship, let's read that headline quickly. Economic hardship has affected how much people pay for offering. That's according to John Dramani Mahama. And Monique says, Brian Aidu says, God hasn't complained to him. Moreover, it is not plenty you offer, but as little as penny. It is from genuine source and clean hearts. Okay, Benjamin Addison says, points of correction. The offering people give us is not quantified by amounts they give, rather the free will of the hearts to give without duress or compulsion is the one acceptable to God. Remember, no one can outgive God. Francis R says, John Mahama, I know, you know where our money is. Look how NDC delegates flow money and you're saying the economy is broke or is hard. Ghana money is with the NDC. That is what Francis is saying. Salami says, that's the price some of the churches wished for Ghanaians. And Alex says, you don't deserve to become the next president. Okay, Sister Bana says, the church, no, they don't go. Kati Samo, which is actually quite true. Some people have said that, you know what, I can't go to church every Sunday 4 times a month. I'd rather go like twice so that I can save transport money. Samo Com says, yeah, that is true. John Mahama all the way. Paul says, that is the alternative for us as a nation. We have a long way to go as a country. Ninani says, Chairman, please, you should have advised the churches and their leadership to stop the hypocrisy and stop their members in this support their members in this hard time. And Andrews Lord says, is God also complaining? Okay, and Grace Super says, true, even church attendance has also reduced drastically. So those are some of your comments on our Facebook page. Kwame Pong says, okay, so more comments. So this is what we posted. Pray and keep faith, and that will turn things around. President Akufo-Addo on the economy. Edward says, when you abuse the trust of the people, they desert you. Roger at some point says, such reckless leadership. And Wanda says, because you're superhuman with different color of blood in you, Ghanaians should pray and keep faith in you. Okay. Salami says, Mr. President, the point is that the economic outlook has no future. Hudi Mohammed says, Mr. President, for how long? Please have mercy on us because there's so much happening in this country. Jonathan Mensah says, you want me to buy a gallon of petroleum for 100 cedis and applaud you for good work? Okay, and Musa Ibn says, that's the truth. Things will turn around, inshallah. And Kingsford says, this is what I don't want to hear. What faith? The last few I'm taking from Mark Collins. The forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the X. For the X was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them. And that's exactly the case of Ghana now. And Boniface says, 6 years you couldn't do anything. It's the remaining 1 year that you can do something for us. And Kwame Pan says, oh, he thinks that it's cheap talk, Mr. President. Come back again. And the last two is from Isaac Sabos, who says, why didn't you say the same thing to us when we're in opposition, when the fundamentals were weak? And then, all right, so let's go to more of your comments. And then Eric Kwame says, we hear you as you continue to campaign for 2024. Thank you. And Paul Benny says, I'm sure IMF officials told them they're close to getting 3 billion. Those are some of your reactions on our Facebook page. Do stay interactive with us. We are JoyNews on TV.